Hello and welcome to Horror Hyperfixations, where I look at horror through a neurodivergent lens. I am Sam, your neurodivergent host, and this is my second attempt at an intro for this episode. As always, I want to be honest and share with you about my struggles because I'm neurodivergent. Life is hard. I was going to include an extra little snippet at the beginning of this episode anyway, just to acknowledge the incredibly sad news we had that Screaming Mad George has passed away. At the time I recorded this episode with Mike, Screaming Mad George had already passed away, but his family hadn't shared the sad news with everybody yet. So I didn't want this episode to go out without acknowledging the fact that we've lost one of our greatest special effects makeup artists ever, because it was incredibly sad news to read a week or so ago that he'd passed away, and that he'd passed away back in February as well. So it felt extra sad listening back to this episode where we mentioned Screaming Mad George and society and the fact that he'd passed away and we just didn't know about it yet, which is really sad. So I didn't just want to plop a little bit extra onto the intro about someone as legendary as George. To be honest, I also didn't want to listen to my last intro back. I did give a bit of an update of things I've been up to over the last couple of weeks and months, because for some reason I've got into a groove of doing a relatively short intro, which is probably a good thing. I used to do much longer intros where I talk more generally about things I'd seen, things I've been up to, and I don't know when I stopped doing that, and there's probably better podcasting to yap less at the beginning of an episode. I did quite a long intro talking about loads of cool things, but in all honesty, my mental health is worse now than when I recorded that intro, and I don't really want to listen back or watch myself talking so excitedly about a bunch of stuff that I don't really want to talk about. So we've got a much shorter intro today. No video with that if you're watching on YouTube. I don't want to look at myself today. Full disclosure, stuff is hard work, and I've taken a little bit of a step back from social media at the moment, just so I don't have to think about how I am perceived to other people, because other people's perceptions of you can quite often be very damaging. For fuck's sake. Woof, I can't record an intro without crying, it seems. Other people's perceptions of you can be very damaging, and if I come off social media, I don't have to worry about that for a little bit. So sorry that there's crying at the beginning of this episode. I wanted it to be a lovely introduction to the episode for you, because it's a really lovely episode. I will have put in the notes to skip over the intro to avoid me being a sad little whinger, and to jump straight to the timestamp to listen to Mike, because I had a lovely conversation with Mike. We've got at least another 2 podcast episodes that have come out of our chat, and possibly another podcast. Okay, that's enough of me now crying on at you about how hard it is to be ADHD. But on that note, go and listen to the Shouty Brain podcast. It's a new podcast I discovered a couple of weeks ago and I've been listening to. It's fantastic. The host, Trevor, is ADHD as well and invited me onto the podcast. That episode is out now at time of recording. I had a great chat. Got quite vulnerable with Trev. Yeah, I think I did some processing during my ranting. The sound is awful on it, and I'm not quite sure how, because my audio's usually okay on here. Who knows what happened then. But yeah, go and follow and listen to the Shouty Brain podcast if you are interested in learning more about neurodivergent people and the way they tick. It's a fascinating podcast. But for now, enjoy me and Mike waxing lyrical about how much we love horror theatre. Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. Long time listener, first time guest. Hopefully not last.
I love that. Thank you. Friend of the pod.
Yeah. Well, I remember talking to you when we first met. I think is when you more or less just started this.
I
remember you telling me about you don't want a reversible, which I'm a bad friend because I still haven't actually got around to watching that yet.
Don't listen to the early ones, please.
Please don't
listen to the early ones. Which is... I am absolutely the person who, when I find a new podcast, I go back to the early ones, because I'm like, if I don't like how they are when they're shit at the beginning, I'm not going to like them, like, maybe as a person later on. But then anyone who tells me they're going to listen to my early ones, I'm like, please don't. Please don't. I don't even edit anything. But, thank you for coming on the podcast. This has been a long time coming, isn't it? We've been talking about doing this for probably about a year, but, you know.
Probably, yeah.
I'm blessed with the ADHD, and everything goes on a little wander. Plus, I was trying to get loads of people on so we could all have a big group discussion about what we're going to talk about. But then couldn't be asked anymore, and you were the only person I really wanted to talk to anyway. So you win.
Thanks. Yeah, scheduling is always a nightmare, isn't it? So
even without ADHD, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone's so busy.
Do you want to introduce yourself? Because we've gone straight into yapping as we do. Introduce yourself. Tell the lovely listeners who you are.
Who am I? Who the hell am I?
Existential question for you on a Saturday morning.
Oh, I have to talk about things I've done in a positive way.
You don't have to. You can just say, "I Mike." That can be your introduction.
I mean, yeah, but I guess people are just curious. I guess one thing people might vaguely know me online for is I run a page called An Autistic Guide Through Horror that I set up 5 years ago now, and it's sort of gone a bit dormant recently. I need to add new stuff to it, but basically it was me at that time actually quite freshly diagnosed autistic, which I'm sure we'll get into later. Sort of realizing that there's to me an obvious connection between being like a horror fan and being autistic, which when I then tried to research, it felt like nobody really talked about that much. So I wanted to try and sort of be a platform to sort of talk about how I view horror as an autistic person, and also any autistic creatives in the horror spirit, which actually, once you start looking, there's loads of us, even if there's not much representation. A lot of people who make horror are autistic,
and the rest of them just aren't diagnosed yet.
Well, yeah, they're not, it's the ones that are peer reviewed, as I've heard. But then as part of that, it sort of then got me writing film reviews. So I've written stuff for the Geek Show. I've been branching out stuff like Film Hounds, and I did an article about Rosemary's Baby series for Night Tide. That was quite fun. Well, fun. As fun as Rosemary's Baby can be. So that's sort of, and I just sort of witter about online about films and stuff, basically.
Wittering online is what I do best. I don't know if I do that good, but it's of all the things I do, it's the one I do the most. But no, it's thank you. We met each other at an Evolution of Horror event for the stuff. Was it? Yeah,
it was. Yeah. God, yeah.
And in true autistic fashion, I was coming over to say thank you, to be that like polite little girl who's been to a birthday party, like thanks for a nice time, to say bye to our mutual friend Caitlin for being on the panel, and I was coming over to be like, thank you, had a lovely time, bye. And then I heard one of you or all of you talking about Alton Towers, and I was like, I need to drop some lore on you about Nemesis, because theme park's autism. And you were all like, please sit down, info dump at us. And I just didn't leave any of you alone then, did I?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how I even got into that. Yeah, but yeah. No, never been the same since.
I know. Changing lives, one conversation about a roller coaster at a time. Fucking Nemesis of all things. I was like, well, let me tell you all this stuff. Because, I
don't even like theme parks. Here's a bit of lore. I was born on the same day that Radio 5 Live first aired.
Nude.
And, I know. But my dad found it. So on their 10th anniversary, they put a call out. Go like, if anyone happens to be born on that day, you
get a free radio station.
Well, you can get a free trip to Alton Towers and meet Adrian Giles.
Wow.
But the thing is, I went to Alton Towers, and as a 10-year-old, and as yet not fully aware of my autism, I don't really like roller coasters, so I didn't go on any rides. So all my family went on a bunch of rides, and I just went as an oblivious 10-year-old.
Stood there.
Basically, I didn't want to go on the
bags.
Pretty much, I didn't even want to go on the merry-go-round. I remember the woman was like, "Oh, you don't want to go on this?" I was like, "No."
Overstimulation, no thank you.
Pretty much, yeah.
See, that's why I fucking love roller coasters, because it is a safe place. And again, this is one of the things I've realised later on. It's a safe place to feel literally that roller coaster of emotions of oh my god, I'm scared. Oh, this is fun. Oh, I don't like it. All of those things in a safe, contained environment that is 3 minutes long, and then you're like, okay, we're done now. What next?
See, it never feels safe when I do it. But because the guy, I don't know if you know Tom Scott, the YouTuber, because he did a video. He also doesn't like roller coasters, but he did a video of him basically going on, working his way up to liking roller coasters, and he realised he did like them. So maybe I'll take some inspiration from him and give it a go
Maybe
one day.
we'll organise a big goth day out to Alton Towers, and
Yeah.
all the goths and horror nerds can all ride on the Wicker Man all day, going, "Not the bees, not the
Yeah.
bees!" For
That'll be
hours
fun.
on end, because the Wicker Man roller coaster is fucking great. But if you're not a
Okay.
roller coaster fan, it's quite intense because
Sure.
wooden roller coasters are an
Oof.
experience.
Yeah. I've been never going to be for me, but one day.
Nah, we'll get you on Nemesis. If you don't love Nemi, then you'll never love roller coasters because she is beautiful. She is Grace. She will punch you in the face. I love her.
I always wanted.
To be punched in the face by a beautiful woman.
Absolutely.
It's what we all want. It's what we all want. On that completely related
Segue out
to
of that.
nothing segue, yeah. Yeah, you mentioned about your diagnosis. Are you comfortable to talk a little bit about like how your diagnosis came about and what flavour of special are you?
Yeah. Well, I've got quite a weird backstory of that. So basically, I was sort of diagnosed when I was young. I think when I was like 4 or something. But
Okay.
I didn't know about it until I was in my 20s.
Interesting. Well, I've not
Yeah.
had this story before. Let's go.
Yeah, no, it is unusual when I've told people about it. Yeah, so I think, yeah, and it's weird. Like, it's weird, and now looking back, things make more sense than they did at the time. So yeah, so I was young, so I was dying. I think it's weird because I've looked at some of the paperwork since as well from when because my parents still had it. So back in and so bear in mind, this is like back in the 90s when obviously this is when you had like the autism vaccines called autism or cause autism sort of thing. So I think basically, yeah. So I had it in primary. So I was diagnosed when I was young, I think. Had it through, so obviously in primary school, I was still with like the quote unquote normal kids, I wasn't separated out into separate classrooms, but we did have like a teacher's assistant. And I think, I might be making this up entirely, but I think she was basically always with our specific class as the years went on because of me to some degree. Because I always wondered why she followed us through from like reception to year 6. But then by the time I went to secondary school, my parents decided not to tell the school at all, and obviously hadn't told me about it at all. Basically, I think they basically sort of wanted me to have like a quote unquote normal life, as it were, not to feel picked on or anything. But what that obviously meant is that I then spent years masking and trying to socialise because I just sort of felt off, but I never knew why. Until literally, and so yeah, by the time secondary school I again didn't know. And it was only when again, this is how I remember it. My mum randomly, this is when I was in my 20s, I was at university at this point. My mum randomly sort of dropped it in conversation one day, and I went like, huh? And so then spent several years reckoning with this fact of like, well, does that mean I am or am I not? I remember actually going to the doctor about it at one point, and I think he basically said, well, if you were diagnosed, then you have it. I was like, okay. And then, to be fair, I then went home, and then he did give me a call. Like, okay, let's look into you getting maybe like re-diagnosed as an adult, maybe. So he did then
That's
help.
good.
And then,
That's nice to know that like a doctor actually give a shit enough to do that.
yeah, at least after the fact, I could have done it at the time, I guess, but he's done it a better way.
So
But he
you've been
did recognize
diagnosed twice. You were doubly
effectively.
autistic.
Effectively, I'm like, and the funny thing is, then when I actually went to I think it's somewhere in Penarth, I think, is where I eventually went to have like because you had to fill in the form. My partner at the time, no longer my partner, but she filled in a bit as well. And then my mum came in with me for like the actual interviewee assessment bit. And then afterwards, the guy said like, I knew the minute you walked in the room. It's like, okay, I guess that's sort of reassuring. And then it was that thing of that's now bothered me ever since of realizing, okay, now I've been diagnosed. Oh, there's like no support out there, basically. So yeah, you'll have like go to like a I don't know, month-long weekly call session where you and a leader and other recently diagnosed adults talk things through, but that's about it. And we'll give you some booklets, and that's basically it. I was like, okay, cool.
Here's a leaflet on your entire existential crisis of finding out in your 20s that you had a brain problem that you didn't know you had. Hooray!
Yeah, basically, yeah. And as we'll get onto when we talk about the sort of subject of this episode, I guess, is that I had a very fixation on theatre and ended up writing sort of a piece about it, actually, some ways, because I was sort of into theatre writing for a bit. So I thought that sort of I used art as an outlet for that to some, which sort of helped things to some degree. But yeah, so it's still been a thing of, so it's taken a long time for me to sort of fully accept that, especially because, and looking back, I'm like, oh right, those moments where I felt a bit of an outsider, or if I didn't get things, that was me being autistic, and that was me learning to mask. That's why I sort of I don't quote unquote look autistic or seem autistic perhaps to some people. It's not something I necessarily always disclose to everyone I know necessarily. But obviously, obviously now because I have autistic guide through horror, and that's how a lot horror friends now know me through that. That's sort of there now, and also I just tend to hang out with autistic or these neurodivergent people. Yeah, so
yeah. So I was gonna say it's good that it's good that we all sort of gravitate towards each other and find each other. I don't have many neurotypical friends anymore. The neurotypical friends I have had over the years, and I look back at them now and I'm like, yeah, they're neurotypical. They don't last very long, and what I find is the friendships that I've had with other neurodivergent people, like from school and things, that for whatever reason we've like drifted apart, they've come back in the last couple of years and been like, hey, guess what? I'm ADHD. And I'm like, yeah, no, I know.
Tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Because,
sweet.
you might not have thought about them for however many years because
No, exactly,
out of mind object permanence, including people. But then, as soon as you like look back, you're like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
No,
and
so
like
true.
we've reconnected, and like quite a few of my friends have come back, and then they've been like, do you know what? I'm very similar to you. I think I might go and get assessed. And then they're like, guess what? I'm autistic. And I'm like, yeah, no. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
that's how you put up with me.
Yeah, a number of people I know was like, if you just go and get tested, we know what the result will be.
It's the same when I went. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, it's like, well, even that, it's like, actually, it's even worth getting the actual diagnosis because you're probably basically in the same place before, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, for me, having the piece of paper was good because it validated, and I can now take that, like on my stuck. It's not on my fridge because I haven't printed it out. I should do, but I can stick that on the fridge. If I apply for a job, if I apply for anything, I can be like, look, piece of paper to say I'm autistic.
Yeah,
so that you can't fucking bully me for being weird like most other jobs have.
Sure.
It's not my fault. I got the tism.
Yeah.
I mean, the last proper job I had, they didn't care that I had the piece of paper saying I was autistic. They still discriminated and bullied me. But they're less likely to with the piece of paper.
Yeah.
But, it's nice we find each other because I have the kind of grace within my friendships. Well, within the neurodivergent ones, anyway, the fucking neurotypical ones, no, fuck off. But to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I know we planned to do this, but I can't leave the house today, or my brain isn't working, or whatever, and everyone's just like, yeah, okay, see you again.
No, exactly, it's so true.
Having that, like, comfort within each other that, like, we can hang out and know that it's not gonna drain our social battery, and, like, have a safe person to, like, we've been to different events at different things, and it's nice to know, right, when I get there, Mike's going to be there, Mike's going to be chill, Mike's going to have interest in stuff to just even that, like, having interest in stuff to talk about and not have to be like, oh, how's the weather, and have you been on all day, and I'm like, no, I'm poor, leave me alone. But just having somebody like that, that even if your interests don't align, they're a safe, interesting person to talk to. So it's nice. It's nice to have the little special friends. But like you said, in the horror community, I think a lot of us are neurodivergent. Like walking around Fright Fest, it's like spot the neurotypical, and there's not many of them there.
Exactly. No, absolutely.
It's so much fun with like fucking laminated like spreadsheets, and I'm like, for fuck's sake.
This is it. I literally, I think the first thing I wrote from the blog was basically like pointing out all these connections, and like, how many horror fans like are obsessed with like, okay, look, let me tell you about Leprechaun 7, or like, let me tell you about this specific director you never heard of. Like, it's just so like, it's one of those, why does nobody talk about it? It's so obvious that we're all mentally obsessed with this specific thing, especially because it was, and also probably helps the horror is always sort of considered an outsider thing as well anyway. So again, it's sort of a natural sort of gravity, or like if you feel like an outsider, you gravitate towards like outsider material to some degree.
Yes, it's like a running joke with so many of my friends that like I'm a walk-in IMDb because I know who everybody is. And like at Fright Fest maybe 2 years ago, Richard Brake was there, fellow Welshie, we love him. love you, Richard Brake, because you're obviously listening. And he was wandering around, and a bunch of the volunteers were all sat upstairs, and they were all like, "We know him. Who is he?" And my friend Ellie had been like, "We need to find Sam. Sam will know exactly who he is. I won't even need to say anything."
Yeah.
And because they couldn't figure out one film he'd been in to look on IMDb, they were just stuck. And I walked up and they were like, "There she is, walking IMDb. There's a guy walking around downstairs. He's, tall, thin face." And I went, "Oh, Richard Brake." And they went, "Yeah, how did you know?" And I was like, "Well, I just knew what you were talking about." And I reeled off a whole load of films that he'd been in, and the fact that he was born down the road from me in Wales, and that he'd lived in America. And they were all just like, "Cool. Glad you're here, Sam." And I was like, yes, because it obviously the whole point of this is the hyperfixations and the special interest on those things, and like you said, the being drawn to horror, I think, is quite a common experience because of the whole outsider thing, and growing up our entire lives of not really always understanding everything, or the literal masking and seeing those masked characters. What was I saying?
That. Oh God!
Come on, brain, you can do it.
That's how I was listening.
Being a tiny edge lord. There we go.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I was. Look at that laughing rapport. It's almost like we know each other.
Almost if.
Yeah, it was absolutely a tiny edgelord. Anytime people would be like, "Oh no, this is too scary," I was like, "I need to know what this is." Or, Goosebumps. I was the kid reading Goosebumps. I was interested in all horrible histories. I wanted to know all the gross stuff.
Yes.
And anything you should have known. Well, actually, you would have known, but everyone would have known, because I bet you liked Egypt. I bet you fucking loved ancient Egypt. All autistics love ancient Egypt.
True. It's so true. Ancient mythology.
I don't know. I don't know one autistic person who wasn't obsessed with ancient Egypt in school. I used to ask my mum, could I be mummified when I died? And I was obsessed with having my brain pulled through my nose with a hook, and all the morbid stuff. And I think the more that people would talk about things that were horrible and upsetting, the more I liked them, and because no one else liked it, I was like, well, I'm gonna like this now.
It's so
and I think it's just that going of well, I don't quite feel right in myself, in my skin, in my brain. I'll just go like the thing that nobody else likes, and then I don't know what it was, but I'd always actively try and enjoy things more because other people didn't like it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's always I think I was always too scared to watch horror films until literally I was 18, so I didn't like seeing gore really, and it took me a while.
I just wasn't allowed to. That was my issue.
I think it's I've written about it as well. I think it's because I remember watching, again, young autistic Mike watched Monty Python and Holy Grail when he was young. I didn't realise that the Black Knight scene was meant to be funny, because I just saw a man getting his arms and limbs being lobbed off and blood going everywhere, and then John Cleese massacring the entire castle. I didn't understand that it was meant to be funny. And that's all traumatized me, genuinely. But then I got to
funny.
Oh yeah. I mean, even that, because you see blood. It's literally just because you see blood. It's literally that's all it is because it had gore, and I didn't understand that gore could be funny. Basically, now I obviously don't. I think weirdly, the thing that turned me over weirdly is Django Unchained. It's oh right, violence can be sort of entertaining in a way, and so now it's fine. But that said, I was still a horror fan, but I didn't know it because I was drawn to horror history is such an obvious pull. I hadn't even thought of that as an obvious connection. I remember there's that one in I think it's one about Second World War where they talk about, it basically tells a horror story about it turns out there's someone who's cannibalizing during the bomb in Dresden or something, and there's so few resources as a person who'd kidnap people to eat them. And it's that's just a full-on horror story that I remember to this day. And I love those books. And I was watching shows like Murder the Vampire. I was reading Stephen King and Edgar Allan Poe. So I was drawn to that material, but I clearly didn't understand why. And even though because I saw the coming of age in my teens of when, you know, you'd be getting into horror films was like the era of like, well, the millennial nasties or like Saw and Hostel and stuff, which was stuff that I was never going to be inclined to watch. So I never got that horror education at that point, if that makes sense. So it only took till lockdown, basically. Well, post breakup, I had to move back to where I previously lived, and then lockdown hits. And that's when I started getting into horror films, basically. And that's sort of, I've sort of been catching up ever since on that specific brand of horror, I guess.
Interesting, because I just assumed that you'd been into horror for such a long time.
Well, so yeah, well, I mean, I haven't, so, but it hasn't been.
It's like 5-6 years.
Yeah, I know. It's weird, isn't it? And it's one of those, but it became a hyperfixation, basically, because up to that point, theatre was a thing I was really into. Then lockdown hit, and obviously that sort of crushed that a bit. And so then I think it's because I have a friend, she was doing, over lockdown, she was like watching a horror film every day, basically, because she was doing like, I think she's still doing it at the moment, like a PhD about like mental illness in horror films, basically. So she was trying to educate herself. So because I knew, I was like, oh, I'll watch some of these with you. And I think we've already mentioned about Evolution of Horror to Fang, because I think she mentioned about as well. I heard about Fright Fest, I think, because we did sort of lockdown version of Fright Fest together. And I think Evolution of Horror at the time, they did like a pub quiz or online quiz. And that's how I heard about them. And then obviously Evolution of Horror was great because they just give you a list of films. I was like, here's all like the essential films to watch. So I sort of started with that basically, and ever since then it became a fixation, and then sort of diving into trying to catch up ever since. Yeah.
Interesting. I just assumed you'd always like been like a horror film fan. I mean, like I said, I wasn't allowed to watch stuff. I started probably about 15 or 16. Like my dad would get me stuff from Blockbuster, and like if a friend, they'd managed to get their parents to get them something from Blockbuster, we'd watch it together. But I wasn't like allowed to watch anything. So when I hit 18 and lived on my own, I was like, fuck you, I'm a grown up, I can watch things with an 18 certificate, I can go to a shop and buy them. So like it was from 18, so you know, that's been 20, 21, 22 years now of like going, oh, I need to catch up on everything, and I'm never going to catch up because I keep watching the same films over and over and over.
Also, it's just too much. I've tried to reconcile that. Like, you're never going to read everything, you're never going to see everything, but damn it, I'm still going to try.
Still going to try. And there's nothing wrong with finding comfort in watching Hereditary for the 47th time. Which again is a very common experience, isn't it? Pouring ourselves into that little space of something horrible for 2 hours because it's horrible, but it's predictable, and it's we know what's going to happen, we know everything, and it's quite cathartic, I think, to put yourself into that little space of like watching something. Do you have any horror comfort movies?
See, I'm not that much of a rewatcher, really, of films, really, unless I'm showing it to someone, really. I don't necessarily, because I think I'm always just all want to try and see a new thing, really. I think I'm always got that sort of paranoia back in my life. I need to see this, I need to catch up because everyone talks about this one, and I say that for hundreds of films.
Don't leave me out.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think what the horror film I've probably seen the most is. I've probably seen Get Out quite a few times because there's always just someone I know who hasn't seen it. So I've watched that quite a few times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I might like watch bits of films again. But no, it's not really. I don't think I got. I don't have a couple. Well, I mean, probably the one I say is my like favorite horror film. I would say my favorite horror film to people I don't know, to sound impressive, would be like Alien, because that's like an acceptable, perfect film. But my actual favorite, I think now people who know me best to associate with is Society, the Brian Usner film, which I love. I think because it's
one of my
fun.
favorites.
I absolutely love it, and that's I need to work out how to articulate this one. I'm convinced that is autistic horror, but I need to place exactly why. I guess because there's this outsiderness to it.
Well, yeah, because he's in this world, fascinating. Love this. We'll do an episode on Society.
Oh, please.
Because he is in this world where everyone is behaving a certain way and he doesn't understand.
Exactly.
He's convinced that there's something wrong with everybody else apart from himself, and no one believes him, and he's just like, there's something not right here. But the something not right is, in the autism thing, it'd be him, but
Yeah.
everyone else is wrong, which I think is correct because all the neurotypicals are weird. Love you, neurotypicals. You're so nice. I love you. You're not listening, so it doesn't matter. They're not listening. I don't think anyone's listening, Mike. You were here, so you're not listening. But yeah, he's just one. Yeah. He's. Sorry. Oh no, it's good. I listen back as well. I'm always like, let's pretend I'm a listener and listen like a listener would listen and put it on Spotify, like new episode of Horror Hyperfixations. But yeah, he's living in this world that he doesn't fit in, and he's just like, what the fuck is going on? And he just can't find an explanation for it. And then everyone is a disgusting amorphous blob, and as I need to do every time anyone talks about society, shunting. Gotta cheer for the shunting.
Yeah, I've been on record on Amber T, where she had a podcast, did like a Valentine's Day special, like what's your like problematic crush, and mine was the shunting does look quite fun. There's something appealing about the shunting in a weird way, but anyway, I think I do quite like that subgenre in a way of like a person goes like, there's something wrong with the world, but nobody else seems to realize it. It's like like Midsommar or things like that as well.
Yeah.
I think there's something about that I find. But I think about society as well. I think it's also like it's almost like an autistic film in that it is blatantly clear very early on what the message is of like the rich feed off the working class, and that's how they get, and it hammers that message home at every possible instance, and so that's how you get to the shunting, because it's like it's been reiterated this constantly throughout, being incredibly unsubtle about what it's doing, and then now we have this blatant, horrible, beautiful, metaphorical image of the shunting to really hammer home, like, have you got it yet? And I sort of love that. It's sort of like the Garth Marenghi thing, or like subtext is for cowards. I sort of agree. I think so, being blatant about your metaphor and what you're doing is memorable and engaging in its own right, and I get annoyed when people say something is unsubtle as a criticism. It's like, you can do it badly, but you can also do it well, and it can be really effective and interesting.
Society is one that I make people watch all the time, and I'm still surprised how many people haven't seen it, and how many like 80s horror fans haven't seen it, how many people who love practical effects and like gross stuff haven't seen it, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's like the key text.
You need to watch Screaming Mad George's beautiful work. You need to watch one of the most impressive puppets I've ever fucking seen. Like, I don't know how many people are in that altogether, but like, it's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
There's a lot of puppeteers under there as well, going with fucking goop and KY jelly everywhere. Beautiful.
We'll save all this for our inevitable episode in there.
Yeah.
But why did I even bring that up? Yeah, so that's a comfort one, because I guess there's that sort of recognition thing part of it. That's probably why I sort of a bit of when I've definitely put that on when I felt bad before. So it's just like a nice film.
Nice one.
It's sort of on my level in that headspace. In that headspace when you just want something that's not going to challenge you that much.
What do you mean? It's a very deep musing on class. And...
No, I don't mean that in that sense. For me, I know. Sorry, yeah. That's the autistic thing, taking that too literally. Going like, no, that's not what I meant. No, that's my life. And that's actually, I know you mentioned about listening to episodes, but I do listen to myself back on podcasts and stuff, because I think, again, one of the sort of signs that I was autistic, but I didn't realise when I was younger, is like throughout secondary school, I was always sort of told to speak up more. I was always told to and also even just to put myself forward to say something, because like, I know you know the answer, but you're not saying it, or if you do, you say it really quietly and nobody notices. So it's one of those, listening back is almost like doing podcasts is also, and having done some theatre as well, where I'd always be told to enunciate better. Because that was, I think, all over the place. But I think when I was younger, one of the things is I didn't speak for ages when I was young as well. So again, that's probably one of the signs that got me diagnosed in the first place. But I think listening back, I always get like voice envy for certain people, because I always like listening to myself back, but then hearing other people where it's like, you always sound so good. You know what I mean? It's like, and so when I listen to myself back, it's just almost like a reassurance. I don't mind listening to myself back, because I'm always listening to like, did I sound okay? And like, did that make sense, sort of thing. And that's then I sort of try and improve. If I feel I've not articulated myself well, I can try and learn better from that in a way. It's just a sort of weird curiosity thing. Because I know some obviously probably hate listening to themselves back, which I understand. but I've never had that problem, weirdly, which is
What you need to do is you need to get on the bus or the train up to the valleys and just be a little autistic sponge and be an accent sponge and pick up a load of valleys isms and automatically at least like 30% voice improvement. If you're ever like thinking about your voice, if you've got Welsh tones, like I'm very Welsh. People are always like, sometimes I don't even listen to what you're saying, I'm just listening to your voice and I'm like, thanks. It'd be nice if you listen to what I'm actually saying, but also I completely get it because I love listening to Welsh accents. So sometimes when I listen to myself back, I'm like, oh, I sound nice.
Yeah,
I sound nice. Just listening to my little like kind of Welsh thing. And sometimes I'll say things and I'm just like, fucking hell, like I just sound like, we mentioned that Jason Mohammed thing. Abby makes fun of me because sometimes I don't say no, I say no. And so she makes fun of me for going no, and then quite a few times on that episode I'm just like no, and I'm just like, oh my god. But it's fine. I'm getting more Welsh by the day, and I love it. But
good for you.
People do love a really, really Welshy accent. So if you start talking a bit more like this, blah, 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 you'll enjoy listening to yourself a bit more, I reckon.
Yeah, it was weird 'cause actually the year before I moved to Cardiff for university, I was in a college production of Under Milk Wood where I had to do, obviously had to do a Welsh accent. I also had the part, I don't know if you know Under Milk Wood at all. There's
I'm a bad Welsh person. I know of it, but I've never read or seen it.
It's quite fun. But it's basically, so I played it, one of the characters, I think there's like 60 characters in it. I played like a reverend who basically has like a poem where he just says a bunch of Welsh names, basically, like like Pen Mayan Mawr and things like that. And I had to go to something. I think I got somebody in basically. Like, I just went up to like, can you tell me how to pronounce all these all these
you have a
words?
dialect coach, how fancy.
Pretty much. I mean, it was funny because there's so many parts. Basically, how we delegate the parts is that we just sat around a circle, we all just read it, and anyone who wants to give a part a go, they just said it as like, okay, maybe not you. We'll try somebody else have a go or something. And obviously, I was the only one brave enough to give that poem to go. So yeah, that sounded great. So I had no idea what I was saying. No idea what any of these words were.
I wish I knew the play now, so I know what you're talking about. But
it's basically just listing a bunch of Welsh towns. Basically, that's his one because he's the Reverend giving his morning speech and he's like, oh, look how great the mountains are. Basically, yeah. Pen Mayan Mawr was the only one I remember because that was quite a fun one to say.
And mine, that is big something head. What is the mine bit?
I don't know.
Can't remember what main is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I can't remember. Anyway, yeah. It's a fun play. I recommend it's the size of Radio Play, so even listening to it would be fun because it's all just like people talking, basically. Because the whole way is a place called Larrageb, which is meant to be bugger all backwards, basically. And some of the joke is it's a day in this little village, and just people doing weird, stupid things, basically. It's quite fun. A bit dated, probably, but anyway.
Oh, talking about like little villages and Welsh, I saw Gwaith Araseh for the first time last weekend. Have you seen it? Blood on the Stars. 70s.
Oh, I've heard of that. I've got like that folklore box set that I think's got that on it. So I need to I've heard about that. I need to watch it though.
It's so good. I watched it sat next to Nia.
I know she champions it a lot.
Just cackling all the way through. Before the jokes would happen, she would start cackling, and I was like, okay, I know a funny bit's coming up. And just the glee she was having from these ridiculous, like slapsticky 70s jokes in Welsh was just brilliant. But if you've got that box set, you've got to watch it. It's so stupid.
I've watched barely ever that box set. That's the thing. I'm also got that collectivism. I'll get stuff and then won't actually watch or read it for years. So I've literally got like boxes of books that I need to actually read at some point and DVD that I haven't watched yet. Yeah, so I've got to get it now because then I'll have it and I'll definitely watch it at some point.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh well, it's actually on Netflix or Prime. I'm not going to get the disc off the shelf and put it in. I'll just watch it on there, and then you miss all the lovely stuff.
Oh yeah, and then I complain whenever I move house. I was like, oh, I've got all this shit that I haven't even watched. But I've got to move it. I'm not going to get rid of it.
Yeah. They're the perils of being a physical media collector and having to move it every time you move. It's not fun.
Yeah.
But it's worth it, I think. I think it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, our subject for today is something that we both hold dear, which is nice. I like it when people have subjects that are a special interest, same as mine. What are we talking about, Mike?
We are talking about horror theatre. And you might be able to see from where you are, I've put some text. Speaking of physical media, as I said, like when before I got into horror films, my fixation was theatre in general. I was very obsessed with it. So I've got loads of I've got a box of play scripts again that I haven't read of play text because so it's I've got to read these plays, and that was absolutely my special interest. But horror theatre is something again we both love. It's something that there's not enough of, but there's more than you expect. Because I was writing down a little list of trying to think of horror theatre that I've aware of or seen, and there's probably more of it than you expect. But it never feels like there's enough.
No. I noticed you had some display text behind you, but I can't make out where any of them are.
Yeah, probably a bit too far away. So one is Macbeth. It's my copy of Macbeth, which is again that's the thing. My favourite Shakespeare play when I was studying Shakespeare. I was like, I wonder why. It's because it's the horror one. It's like there was that and Titus Andronicus. I love they're horror. I don't know do you know Titus Andronicus at all?
No.
So when Titus Andronicus is famous because it's basically
Titus Andromedon, who is a legend and icon, a star.
Amazing. I'm not aware of their work.
The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh, wait, yeah. So, of course.
The roommate Titus is Titus Andromedon.
Of course. But Titus Andromedon basically it's a whole, it's a revenge story, and the guy getting revenge on because his daughter gets raped by a bunch of horrible people. And so he basically cuts them up and puts them into pies, basically. And there's a whole thing of him chopping off his hand. It's all very violent and gory. But Macbeth's a better one. I've also got
Twelfth Night. Twelfth Night is my favourite Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah, that's a fun one. I've also got, because I studied as a sixth form, and I'm sure we'll talk about more of The Woman in Black. I'm sure we'll talk about more about that later.
I still haven't read that. I do need to.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen it, it's to play. But and then I've also got Sarah Kane, who I'm not sure. I'll probably rabbit more about her later because she's absolutely special. She's not typically a horror, but her plays were very shocking and controversial, basically, and full of violence and stuff. So I'll probably talk more about that later. Oh, and then I'll put this up here because it's sort of adjacent. Are you aware of the book Boy Parts?
Yes, I've heard of it, but not read it.
It's not strictly horror, but it's sort of a horror adjacent. But he did a play of it, and I've got the play text of that.
Ooh, okay.
That's what interesting, yeah. But yeah.
So where did the obsession with theatre in general, I think, because that's quite a... And I say this in the nicest possible way. It is a very privileged thing to have an obsession with theatre, regardless of the genre, because, again, I was very lucky that my parents would take me to as much live theatre and concerts and music and all sorts of things. I think growing up in the valleys and being Welsh, that's a very important part of our culture, so that was always ingrained in me. But it is a very privileged thing to be able to go to the theatre. So do you remember what the first thing you saw was? Horror or otherwise?
That's a good... Well, actually, probably one of the first things I saw was... I think... I guess this is my memory of it. I did a podcast, and I told the story before, if anyone... I can't remember how old I was, but at the school... I think it must have been primary school... Maybe secondary school, but I feel like it might have been year 6 of primary school. A nearby school to us were doing Little Shop of Horrors, it's a musical. But I think I got a bit scared by it, which is so... But I think, again, it's that thing, like I said, with the Monty Python thing of not quite realising it's meant to be funny, especially at the end of the first act, obviously, it's the whole thing of him chopping up the dentist and feeding it to the plants. Well, that's quite horrible, really, when you think about it, even though it's obviously ridiculous. But that might be one of the first things I've seen. Obviously, we go to pantos as a kid and things like that. But it's mainly I mainly got really interested when I started doing it at GCSE. I think it was the year before, and I did GCSE drama. I got into performing it, and I got interested in it, and then carried that through to A level, and that's when the sort of slightly more, I guess, slightly academic part of it is that's when I was reading plays a lot. So I've probably read more plays than I've seen, probably.
That's interesting because a lot of people don't read them, do they? And I enjoy reading plays.
Yeah, and it's not the same necessarily as seeing it, obviously. But there's a lot you can get from them. And obviously not every play necessarily has playtext, of course, but most of them do. So that's the way of sort of making it accessible in a way. If you can't literally go see it, usually you can at least read it. It's not going to be quite the same thing. Obviously now it's quite common now for them often to be recorded. Not all the time, but because I think what is exciting about it, I think that's what I enjoyed about going to it, is that live experience of it. Of, you know, you are there with an audience, and it's a thing you're going to only see once, and it's that specific performance is how it's going to be that night. And so, and performing in it is something I enjoy as well. And then it just became that rabbit hole of curiosity. Once I started reading into it, once I started looking into it, it then just became an obsession of, and then, you know, friends would go like, where have you gone? Oh, we've got to see a play. But also, I think I'm lucky because when I moved to Cardiff, obviously we've got quite a few theatres here, and I sort of became, and that's because I was involved in creating stuff, I sort of became friends with people on like the fringe of the fringe theatre scene, basically. I never sort of did anything like professionally, but I'll do like these things they call scratch nights, basically, which is like basically just like work in progress shows. Basically, you'd have like a 10-minute script that the actors might rehearse like a week before or something, and put on its feet, and then people could feedback of whether they liked it or not, basically. So I got involved in that, so that sort of helped. So then it became a social thing at that point as well. So it's like, okay, now my friends are part of this theatre scene as well as something I enjoy doing, and then it's similar to like, you know, friends of horror film fans. It's like we can talk about theatre basically, and it's like it's they'll mention stuff and now send me down rabbit holes. So that's sort of where all that came from, basically. And then that's, like I said, and I still love theatre. I don't love it as much, which is probably healthy in a way. It's not as much of a fixation as it was, but it's still always something that I'm excited by and enjoy.
It's an expensive hobby, isn't it? So if you're not
that's why
doing it as much as good.
Well, it's useful when I was getting into it in my 20s, because obviously you get like under 25 tickets and things like that. And I can get, you know, if I wanted to go to London, I can get London ticket. The train would be cheaper as well, and also I'd have more of the energy to have a whole day of it, of like, okay, I'll go in the morning, go see a matinee, then an evening show, and then come back late at night. Whereas I don't really have. I think I tried to do that again recently. I was like, this is knackering now. I can't really do it. So I think that's why, again, it's because I had that, and because it was a sort of obsessive hyperfixation, I would sort of throw a lot of things to the side, perhaps to a negative degree sometimes. Because, like you say, sort of it can be expensive. And because you have to go out of your way, you have to go to a venue to see it. It's not like you can just stick it on streaming, basically. So I think once you're sort of in it, you're in it, sort of thing. Again, there's probably a lot of crossover there probably. If I've looked into it, like if you're neurodivergent and into theatre, that's probably, I mean, Theatre Kid is basically in that whatever that DHS thing. Because I think probably this one should be a diagnosable thing of you are Theatre Kid.
Yeah. I think it's definitely like less accessible than it used to be, and it's a shame really, because obviously we want theatre to be making money so it keeps going, but I feel like the cost is so prohibitive for so many people. And I used to go so much more regularly than I do now, and I mean my circumstances are a lot different now than they used to be, but like my sister lived in London. And she'd be like, oh, do you want to come and see this on the weekend? Or do you want to come and see this midweek? And it'd be like 20 quid tickets, okay seats. And we'd be like, yeah, fuck it, let's go see. So we'd go see stuff quite often. And I used to be back and forth London, usually at least once a month, see something, whether it was a drag show or a musical or a theatre production, because there were these opportunities to buy tickets last minute and buy tickets cheap because they needed to fill seats. And I don't know whether the filling seats is as much of an issue anymore, but it's so expensive. So even when you do get like the cheap seats, they're really fucking expensive.
That is the problem of it. It's a difficult thing with theatre. Like, as a medium, there is an exclusivity in its very nature. Like, it is a thing of like, if you like, you know, there's so many Broadway shows I'd love to see that I know I'll never get to see, and even just shows in the UK that I know if the circumstances didn't work out, I would never get to see that show. You know, if I would have loved to. And that's sort of, you know, that's part of the magic of it. Like, I was saying with the shirt I'm wearing is, you know, the Stage Fright show, but they talked about they were never going to record that, which I think disappoints a lot of their international fans. But there is. It's tricky. It's a tricky line of like, it's great to have these things accessible to everyone, but at the same time, part of the magic is like, not many people are going to necessarily have this experience. So it's a funny. I think especially the cost of it. That's something that like that. It is a massive problem. I think especially when, and a lot of people talked about this of like, there's a lot of things now to sell a theatre show. You need to have a celebrity in, basically, or someone off the telly or off the film.
They fucking ruin it for me. Get off the telly, Martin from EastEnders. Get off the telly, get off my stage, get back on the telly.
Yeah. No, I know I'll probably inevitably bump up the price. But then, obviously, it's different. Obviously, they've like, something, I don't know. I was lucky I got to see Cynthia Erivo do a solo Dracula thing. So you obviously had someone who had theatrical in her bones. So it's not like she was, I'm a movie star, I'm going to try this thing called theatre. It's like, no, that's clearly something that she...
That made the ticket so much fucking harder for those of us who are fans of horror theatre, who are fans of things... Like, I love Cynthia Erivo. I think she's fucking great. But I wanted to go and see a one-person production of Dracula. I didn't want to go see Cynthia Erivo. And so many fucking Wicked fans would have bought those tickets, meaning that we had to have a ticket lottery for people to try and get tickets because it just made it so much more difficult. So I think this, like, it's not quite stunt casting, but you know what I mean? Like,
no, I do.
Having someone like that makes things less accessible for the people that want to see theatre, and not that those people deserve to go any more or less than anyone else, but it's disappointing when you are a theatre fan when you cannot get tickets for something because of the stunt casting of putting someone famous in there. It's really disappointing.
Yeah, it's funny because at the time of recording this, some recent news of Ariana Grande was meant to be in a show with Jonathan Bailey, this musical Something in the Park with George, but she's had to pull out now. And part of me is like relieved because like, oh good, I have to fight off all the Ariana Grande fans to get tickets for this show now. But it's also a bit of a shame because the show itself is this like quite complex musical about an artist that there's no way on earth that sort of audience would have normally gone to if she wasn't in it. So that's sort of been a sad in a way of like they could have been exposed to something, and obviously some of them might still be curious enough to look up the show and watch a recording of an old production or whatever, but they could have been exposed to something that they might have hated, they might have loved, and so that's a bit of a shame, and they probably still would have been priced out anyway. So it's difficult, especially like you say, to keep the medium alive. We need to get more people seeing it and excited, and if they're not going to be, if it comes too expensive to be exposed to it, then it will eventually die out. But I think there's still, but so it's not good. I probably won't die out no matter what Timothy Chalamet says. Who I think he's been seeing it. I say I don't know if he actually really meant that, but he was just being an idiot, who knows. But
the Kardashians rotted his brain.
Pretty much, that's probably what it is, yeah. But it's one of those, it's such an old art form, and that's when it's been interesting of when people talk about AI, is some theatre shows have, some of the sample data productions have been using it, but there's been such a big kickback against it. Because with theatre, it's like, in its bones, it's about people putting stuff together out of whatever they've got. So AI is just such an obviously inappropriate tool to use. I mean, it's obviously inappropriate to use, generative AI specifically, to use any creative endeavour, but like with theatre especially, when it's like you're watching a bunch of people do stuff on the stage right in front of you, AI is just like, should never even be part of the equation, really, and that's so why that theatre in many ways might survive longer, because of that. Because all you need to do is get a bunch of people who want to say a bunch of things in front of other people. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, I definitely am now more interested in that Sundays with George or whatever it's called. Because you just mentioned Jonathan Bailey, I didn't know he was supposed to be in it, and now I'm like,
well, that's what's exciting. It's like, they're reunited for Wicked to do this show, and
I still haven't seen the Wicked films because I like the stage show, and I'm like, it is perfect on stage, and quite often it's a tangent from like the horror theatre, but quite often I don't want to see film adaptations of stage musicals because, like, especially Chicago, like the way Chicago is staged is so sparse and beautiful, and then it's got this whole like world, and I'm like, I don't want to see it.
It's funny because I saw it the other way around. In terms of, I saw the film first, and I only saw Chicago when it came to Cardiff like last year or something. And so I was sort of jarring, like, oh right, this is how it's sort of done. Yeah, and it's actually one example we might talk about is one of the examples that wanted us to do these episodes. I love Sweeney Todd the musical, and the film version of that does the show such a disservice because it completely misses the tone, because the show itself is quite funny and big and bold, and the film version is just Tim Burton slathering a weird blue, green, dark filter over top of it and everyone playing it deadly serious, which is like, there's a whole joke, there's a whole 5-6 minute song where Sweetie Todd and Mrs. Lover just joking and making puns about what different people will be like as food. You know, the politician's so oily they're served with a doily. Things like that. But no, you're going to play just deadly straight of them just looking out a window and commenting on people passing by. Where's the fun in that? That's not Sweeney Todd. So that can be. So it's that's always annoying. And so I know what you mean with Wicked when you have something that works so well theatrically, transferring to a different medium. You have to obviously adapt it slightly, but it's like, I don't know. It's not, I like the Wicked films, but I think they're not so bad. But I know what you mean.
I'll watch them at some point, but I have such attachments to the first time I experience something that I don't want subsequent versions, however that may be. Apart from ghost stories, we'll allow that. But yeah, when I saw Chicago, it was when I was doing GCSE drama. We went on a trip,
Right.
and Chicago was like the big thing on the West End at the time, and this was a couple of years before they made the film.
Right.
So I had no opportunity to be like spoiled by the film. I only ever knew it as, you know, this incredibly beautiful, sparse production. And I love Chicago, but then it sort of got ruined a little bit by the film because it became, and again, I'm being a bit of a fucking edgelord, but it became this thing that then everyone could access, and it stopped being that special thing that you go to the theatre and experience together. And I know to some extent watching it on screen with other people in the cinema is that same experience, but it stopped being something that I experienced on that day with all of those people. It became something that was just so much bigger, and I'd hear the songs on the radio and I'd hear people singing them out and about, and I'd be like, oh, I know you weren't there on that day when I watched that. I know that's really weird and doesn't really make sense, but
no, it does, because like we were saying about like theatre, that there is an exclusivity to it. It can be a really personal, intimate experience. So then when it, while also a shared experience, even just with the people in that room, never mind people who see it weeks, years later. No, I totally understand that. Yeah, because it's about like the idea of reinterpretation as well. Like, you haven't seen the show that I've seen, you know, in that sort of sense of the show I remember, especially because theatre, again, that non-permanence thing of theatre, you know, it's just like, that's the show I remember seeing, you know what I mean? Even if it's a literal recording of that show, it's like, that's not the show I know is the show I remember seeing on that night, however many years ago. And I was like, actually, The Woman in Black is one I've like, that's probably still the scariest thing I've ever seen in any medium on stage. And I'll always remember it before that. So that it's almost like any other medium that tells that story is inferior to me, because like to me that's the only way, that's the best way to tell that Woman in Black story.
Talking of Woman in Black, was that your first horror production, or was it something else?
Trying to think. I think in terms of, yeah, possibly.
Because Ghost Stories was mine. Ghost Stories was the genesis of my love of horror theatre, but it was also what stopped horror theatre for fucking years, because I was so scared I didn't go and see anything else for such a long time.
Yeah, I think with Woman in Black, I saw, it was part of the sixth form when I did A-level drama. They've taken part of doing the A-level is you had to write about two productions you'd seen. So we saw such a weird double bill. We saw a stage version of Wizard of Oz that Andrew Lloyd Webber did when he'd done that talent show with Michael Crawford as the wizard, which was and Hannah Waddingham as the Wicked Witch before she got. This was back in like 2010 or something. So before, and even then I thought like, oh, she's great. And then I found out, I'm like, oh wait, that's the woman I saw on flying from the ceiling years and years ago. And then we saw Woman in Black in the evening, and I remember my teachers after talking about they always like to do Woman in Black and watch all the students shit their pants basically. Woman in Black and be absolutely terrified by it. Especially because we were sat in the store, so we had to like walking through the audience and shit like that. So that's probably the one I most remember, like being scared watching it play. Like I said, I had that early experience watching Little Shop of Horrors as a kid, but I think that's probably and that saw almost like set the mold to some degree. I think because I think a lot of horror theatre typically, at least big horror theatre, often around ghosts because it sort of makes sense as like that's an easy thing to sort of do on stage compared to a zombie a zombie stage play or whatever. Sort of set them all. I think it's also that thing I've been thinking about, because obviously doing this episode, I've been thinking about like horror theatre. That obviously Women in Black has for people who aren't aware of the show, it has that sort of meta aspect. Like the first half, actually, nothing really happens for a long time, really, because it's basically the premise is a guy, I can't remember his name now, Kipps. He's come to this theatre performance. Like, I want to tell my story, but I don't know how, and he basically sort of teaches him how to make a play, basically about his story. But it's interesting how a lot of horror theatre, I was making this list of how, especially like modern horror theatre, because actually, when was Woman in Black? Have a look at the book. I think it is older than you'd think, actually. The actual obviously, the play is 1989, which is crazy.
I always think it's much older than that. I always think it's like 1800s, and it's not.
Well, yeah, which obviously that's where the story is, yeah. But yeah, well, that's thing. I think it leans into that sort of period-ness of it. But a lot of horror theatre does have that sort of slightly meta aspect to it often. Like even the stage fright, the Inside Number 9 thing has that. Even like Rocky Horror, it's the Rocky Horror show. It was obviously started on stage, and that has the whole you sort of starts like you're watching a science fiction double feature, etc. Which is sort of interesting. It's like, can you? I know that obviously these do exist. Or you can. I suppose that's one I need to. I suppose I've put on my list. I put the Pontypool stage play I need to put on this list, of course, because obviously you can just do. Because even that's about a broadcast. So is this? Can you do just like? Here's a horror story to present on stage. Obviously, there definitely are. I'm sure, like Ghost. I mean, even Ghost Stories actually has that.
Ghost Stories is that as well. It's going. I'm going to tell you some stuff, and then you go into the stuff.
Yeah,
like it's very. Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, I've not picked up on that connection of like. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Most of them have that meta aspect to them.
It's just sort of interesting. It's almost like even like even Sweeney Todd, opening things like Attend the Tale of Sweeney Todd, So yeah, that's sort of interesting.
Let's talk about Sweeney Todd then, because we were going to do a whole episode on Sweeney Todd, but it grew into let's just do all the plays we love.
Yeah, as many as we can. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've not seen Sweeney Todd on stage. I've only seen the Tim Burton film.
So yeah, and the problem is actually it's quite hard. I did think about trying to find a link to any, because you could probably find recordings of production and sending it to you in case you wanted to look it up, and I forgot. So sorry about that.
It's one of those things I think that yes, I probably could watch a version of it, and I would love to see the Michael Balls and Imelda Staunton
that is good
casting. Yeah. I would love to see that, but also I'm like I want to save it until I can see it on stage.
That's sort of it's actually it's been playing Birmingham recently. I debated whether I wanted to go make the trip to go see it in Birmingham, which is meant to be quite a fun production. Yeah, I think I've only seen it on stage once actually, and that's because I got to see it at the Welsh National Opera did it for some reason. Again, this is when I was at uni, and we managed, and because that's part of the drama society. I don't know how they managed it. We got to see them do like a dress rehearsal basically of it, so that's quite cool. So it's basically just us in the Welsh Human Centre, which is really that might be one of the first times I even went into that building. Maybe not the first time, but one of the first, and that was good. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, the main difference between the stage show and the film, beyond them cutting a bunch of songs, is the sort of sense of fun to it. So even though it's Sweeney Todd is it's obviously based on these like penny dreadfuls. So it's an old story from like I know it was Victorian times. About a guy who was, falsely accused of a crime, sent to the Australian penal colonies, basically, and then comes back 20 odd years later seeking revenge on the judge who sent him there to find his wife and daughter. And then he ends up taking him as a barber, and then finds Mrs. Lovett, who is a failing baker, and seemingly really at random, basically decide like, oh, actually, well, while you're getting revenge, you can practice on killing people, and I'll make them into pies. And that's the story, and then it becomes this horrible
Good for them.
tragedy. Yeah, good for them. But so it's obviously the original production had Angela Lansbury in playing Mrs. Lovett, and if you can see clips of her performance, and that sort of sets the tone for what is again. It's like I said about Women in Black. The first half, there's not much horror in it really until towards the end when they decide to kill people, because it's a horror musical, and so Stephen Sondheim. I assume you've heard his name before, and yeah, I don't know if you. Are you familiar? Well, he did Sunday in the Park with George, so this show that John picked. So he's known for being quite a very knowledgeable, complex musical theatre.
He's a bastard to He is a bastard to everyone who's ever sang any of his productions because they're so complex. The way he writes vocally and musically.
Yeah, I think it's just something cancelable about him then.
No. He's just evil.
He's very, very difficult. Yeah,
his songs are so hard to sing.
Yeah, it's very hard to sing. So he's always often compared to Andrew Lloyd Webber because I mean basically they have the same birthday apparently. But it's like Andrew Lloyd Webber gets like all the audiences and all the money, but not often critically regarded. Whereas sometimes sort of the opposite of like he's plays very regarded, but probably people can name Sweeney Todd and Into the Woods, and that's probably about it. If I name like Company and Sunday and George or Merrily Roll Along, most people go like, oh yeah, I think I've heard of that. They did Daniel Radcliffe did that or something. So they're getting more attention now, but they're not necessarily like the ones on everyone's lips unless you're like a musical theatre nerd, basically. But Sweeney Todd's interesting in that it's obviously a very like old popular story, and he sort of for all that there's like clever puns and there's complicated musical things in it, it is also just like really fun. Because apparently I was looking up some interviews, and apparently he was like a fan of like Giallo films.
Okay.
And he was a fan of like a silly joke, and like I say, had a whole number of Little Priest, which is just them, riffing on all the people they want to kill, basically. Where was I going with this? But I think it's. What's interesting? I think the thing he was interested in with Sweeney Todd is how do you do a horror musical in that? How do you maintain the tension when people are going to start bursting into song every so often, which you'd think would like defuse the tension? And I think he found that as an interesting experiment. He's always someone who's very interested in experimenting with sort of form and stuff. So I think that's what he found interesting. And what's interesting about Sweeney Todd is, like I say, it's got this balance of comedy and horror. So you have, for example, like. There's a moment he finally has the judge. He's finally in the first act. He finally has the judge. He's come to his well. He's about to slit his throat, but then he gets interrupted, and the judge then runs off. And basically he has a whole song where he has a complete breakdown where he basically says he wants to kill everyone. In the movie, it's quite well done actually. We see him like wandering around the streets of London, threatening everyone in his head. But then immediately after that, you have this comedy number that I keep talking about, Little Priest, where they have his joke. It sort of flips between this tone, but it's interesting that it never undermines the horror. It's that sort of like, it's just a bit of a relief. We're going to actually have a take a breath on this quite intense madman, basically, who just spirals into revenge. I think it's just really fun on stage, and that's what's disappointing about the film, is there's a real lack of. It's been a while since I've seen the film, but there's a real lack of fun, I think, for me. I don't know what your feelings are about the film, particularly.
I like the film because I went to see it in the cinema when it first came out. I was a real big Tim Burton fan. I didn't know the songs particularly well from Sweeney Todd, but I knew of some of them. I loved Johnny Depp at the time. I loved Hannah Bonham Carter. I loved Alan Rickman, so I was like, perfect, love this. And bearing in mind when it came out, I would have been about 19, 20. I was like, it was for me. It was musical theatre. It was Tim Burton. It was dark and wonderful. I can look at it now critically and go, well, Johnny Depp wasn't the right person for that role. Again, is Tim Burton fucking bums Johnny Depp, and he put his fucking girlfriend in it. Like, she's all right, but like, it's one of those things that I'm annoyed that big budget and that big opportunity went to people who weren't the right people for the role. And I think that's another reason why I don't necessarily watch film adaptations of stage shows, because of like who gets cast in them.
Yeah, that's
like
so true.
okay, Wicked has got an amazing cast, but
That's sort of the exception, really.
yeah, like I love Les Mis, but I've never seen the
Mm.
film of Les Mis because I don't want to see fucking Russell Crowe singing. Gross. Like, bleh.
Yeah. See,
And I know Hugh
yeah.
Jackman is a musical theatre guy, but no.
No, I know. I will. Yeah, I will. The people who don't mind Russell Crowe and Les Mis, but you're right though. And generally speaking, they don't get people with, or they'll have the loosest of possible theatrical connection. They might have done play once, but they're not necessarily musical theatre people. Like basically the entire cast of Wicked is. They're all like musical theatre people, really, which is why that was sort of quite exciting. But yeah, right. So it was exciting. I was watching a video. I haven't finished it yet, but I was watching a video essay about it. I just happened to come across my feed, which is weirdly fortuitous. She was talking about the difference between the adaptations. Apparently, like Sondheim did have apparently had final casting on for the two leads, but it's like realistically, Sondheim wasn't going to be rocking the boat. We wanted to make this film for age. He wasn't realistically going to say like, "Oh no, don't cast your girlfriend who apparently loves this show," but then also. It's also weird. There's some of the promotional interviews. Tim Burton talks about like, of course, the real hard thing is like 70% of it is music. It's like, well, yeah, Tim. What did you think you were doing? If you wanted to do Sweeney Todd as a normal film, do it as a normal film. Why are you doing a musical and seemingly having to struggle with the fact it's a musical?
Yeah,
that's what's so
they
weird.
never advertised that it was a musical.
No, that was a whole thing, wasn't it? Yeah, which is
because I knew that going into it, but the people sat behind me didn't.
Yeah,
oh, go on.
I said that's happened again. Still recently, like there's the Mean Girls musical, there's the Colour Purple musical, even Wonka.
Yeah.
Like they seem to hide the fact there's a musical. I mean, Wicked they couldn't get away because Wicked's sort of in the popular conscious,
In the
zeitgeist.
popular.
Yeah.
See what you did there.
That wasn't even intentional.
On purpose. It was on purpose.
I'll take it. But yeah, it's weird. Like what people don't want to see. But the movie musicals were like huge. Back in like the 60s, that was like why people went to the cinema for. Which is so why are we so it is weird of like people like musicals. Why are we so reluctant to talk about
gay to like musicals? Because like there was a bloke sat behind me who'd clearly gone to see a new horror film.
Yeah.
And when Johnny Depp started singing, he was like, "What the fuck?" And then right at the end, he went, "Why were they fucking singing the whole time?" And I was like, heh heh heh.
Yeah.
But it is naughty to do surprise musicals, I think, because if people don't like musicals, they don't like musicals. And like, yeah, they might enjoy it if they go and watch it, but it just feels disrespectful, I think, to the the musical director, the composer, all the people who've like worked on the thing. Is like, oh, we're just not going to tell people. And it's like, if they don't want to go see it, they're not going to go see it. Don't trick people into going to see something else.
I agree. Yeah.
But I do love it, and it's really camp. It's really camp. The performances are really silly. Yes, Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter aren't great, but like Alan Rickman was fantastic.
Yeah, he's
in it.
great.
It's the first time I saw Jamie Campbell Bower and fell in love with him because he's beautiful. Oh my god!
Yeah. And it's funny because I did watch the Angela Lansbury one recently, and the person who plays his part looks about 40. So maybe you could have got away with it on a stage miles away, maybe, and you wouldn't notice. But so it makes sense in the film. At least they cast to the right ages in the film, and yeah, like I say, they do good. It's not. Yeah, it's not. It's been a while since I've seen it. I don't like hate the film at all. I think it's just not. Like we were talking about it, it's not the show that I know, sort of thing. And to be fair, I probably saw the film before I knew the show that well, to be fair. I was then seeing the show after, it's like, oh, right, this is great. Why was the film not like this, basically? But then there's been loads of productions since then, so it's still been like Josh Groban did it recently.
Don't like him.
No,
he gives me the ick.
I
His
get that.
eyes, he's got black eyes, and he scares me, I think. I mean, he's got a beautiful voice, but there's something about him that... no, I don't like him. Sorry, Josh Groban.
That's right. Hey, you might like him in Sweeney then, because you're not really meant to like Sweeney, so maybe that'll...
Yeah, I guess. And I think another reason why I haven't rushed to go and see it is because I'm not going to get to see Imelda Staunton. She's not going to do that again, I think.
No,
I mean, if
that's
she
a shame.
does, great, I'll go see it. But, like, I know I said to you before, my sister went to see with Michael Balls and Imelda Staunton, and
Yeah, I've seen a
Just
recording of it, but it's not the same, is it? It's like,
no, and I'm like, oh, I'm sure this person would be great in it, but
mhm.
it's not a
Yeah,
milestone, and I want to see her. She'd be fantastic.
yeah,
So I'll go watch her someday.
yeah.
But yeah, I wanna. I don't know why she went without me and why she did. Maybe she did ask me, and I was just like, I'm poor, leave me alone. But
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's how it goes.
what are some of your other? Because I know we've got so many plays we've seen. What's on your list? What's on your list?
What's this? I'll wrap for it. Well, it's ones I like and then some I don't like, and also some I haven't seen. Well, I said I mentioned her, and I'll talk about Sarah Kane. Um,
I don't
so
know the name, so please
yeah,
enlighten me.
it's a bit of a niche again. It's a bit of a niche one. So basically, she was a playwright. She was writing in basically in the 90s, basically, and then died when she was quite young in not pleasant circumstances. Basically, we won't go into that. Which sort of added to her legacy, essentially, because like, especially because I think her final play was performed posthumously, and so a lot of people read into that as like, I think it was called like an 88-minute suicide note, which is quite reductive, really.
Woof.
Yeah, but she was basically so her first play, Blasted, which is sort of my introduction to her, is basically this play that sort of came out of nowhere. Basically, it starts with like a journalist and a young girl in like a hotel room in Leeds, basically, and it's very clear that it's a very like seedy, horrible relationship that's happening. But then the room explodes, and basically it turns into, as the title says, a blasted like war zone, basically. And then this horrible journalist basically has loads of horrible things happen to him, including a soldier who like eats his eyes and rapes him, and then there's a whole thing, there's a dead baby that gets eaten and stuff. So it's all very shocking and unpleasant, which upset theatre audiences at the time, and still does if you see it. Because I saw it in Cardiff. There's a theatre called The Other Room, which was in a pub called Porter's. I don't know if you know if you knew Porter's at all. It was a tiny 40-seat theatre, and their first production was Blasted. And so it was a really intense, incredible experience. I genuinely sort of rewrote what I thought theatre could do. Of like, oh, holy shit. Because on the page, reading it, again, it's that difference between reading it and seeing it. Reading it, you could perhaps roll your eyes a little bit, maybe. While appreciating that, it's interesting. But then seeing it was like a full, intense experience. But it basically became this thing that I then ended up writing my MA dissertation about, basically, was about violence in theatre in the 90s, because it basically got labelled as part of this, what they call in-your-face theatre. Because there were basically a bunch of other plays around that time that weren't really at all connected beyond they were a bit violent and a bit shocking. There was a play called Shopping and Fucking and things like that. And basically any artist who was labelled onto that all said like, I hate that term. We never agreed on that sort of term, but it was this. But that basically became her thing. She would write these quite shocking plays, basically, quite confrontational plays. Again, you wouldn't necessarily call them horror, but I don't know what else you'd call them really. And there's this play called Cleansed, which I'm excited because which is being performed at the Almeida Theatre. In August, I'm going to go see. Actually, we're going to see it like a day before Fright Fest, basically, because it's like, oh, I'm going to be in London then.
Convenient.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be in London, and there's tickets free, so good. And that's basically just a series of tortures. Basically, it's this weird institution, basically run by a guy called Tinker. And the thing about it is like, I think I was reading around it a little bit. I did my dissertation, but I sort of refreshed myself. It's this sort of contextlessness of the violence. It's basically just watching a bunch of people who like it's almost like, for example, you have this gay couple who like love each other, but it's like the more they say they love each other, the more tortures that are inflicted upon them, almost as this test of like, well, how much do you really love someone? What would you go through to really prove how much you love someone? And so it's obviously very challenging confrontation. And if you read about this production now, and it happened when it was performed like 10 years ago as well. There's always the same headlines of people fainting, and is this the most shocking play ever written and things like that. But it's interesting how that's always the response here. But then she is performed elsewhere in Europe, and it's much more sort of like taken seriously in a way, which is sort of interesting. But it's again, so it's horror theatre, but it's not necessarily. But it's more like, it's not these sort of more accessible. So it's different to sort of like the mainstream ones. Not to sound dismissive, like ghost stories, where it's more like, it's a ghost story. It's a bit more fun. This is like, this is horrible and bleak, and you're gonna have a bad time. It's like 9 Inch Nails meme. Sort of.
Let's go.
Yeah. And that's so, and it's interesting. Like, it's not, and it isn't just for shock, because there is meaning about it, and there's been lots of writing about her since, about her work, because she only wrote about I'm looking at the collection now, but literally wrote about 5 plays and a short film, basically. So we've got this sort of very intense, and they're all written within like 10 years or less than that, probably. There's all this very intense work. It's very confrontational and horrific, that nobody else really wants to do. And especially with Cleanse, it talks about, in the stage direction, it talks about like sunflowers growing out the ground and rats carrying off dead bodies and stuff. Yeah, which all sounds mental. Like, how on earth you can do it? It's a challenge to theatre makers. Like, this is something that can only work on stage. Like, if you put that on screen, it wouldn't necessarily work. Really, it wouldn't be as effective as if you saw on stage. Sunflowers growing out of the ground during this is like, wow, that'd be an amazing experience. Which is also that's all why I find it really interesting, in that it's properly challenging horror theatre, and perhaps because it doesn't happen very often, that's why it sort of stands out. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know her name, but I definitely want to like at least read those plays. Like, they sound fascinating, and I think, like you said, it might not be strictly horror, but being in the room and confronted with that imagery, like, that feels like it's inherently horrific, so should come under horror. But I've not heard of those before. They sound really interesting, actually.
It is a bit niche. She's not, and as you can imagine, she's not performed very often.
They're like, we're not going to sell tickets, let's not bother.
Exactly, yeah. Although weirdly, actually, I think the picture I'm seeing has he's Leo Bill, who was in Fabric. Have you seen that?
I have seen In Fabric.
I think it's the guy who is like the laundromat, who does that long talking speech where he keeps hypnotising people because he talks about washing machines and stuff.
I can't remember that bit. All I can remember is Gwendolyn, what's her name's in as a big
Oh,
block.
yes. Yeah.
Another one of my tall, attractive blonde women that I am obsessed with.
Oh,
Gwendolyn
don't get me
Christie.
started. Yeah, don't get me started on her. Yeah.
Oh, love her.
So again, a relatively big name, but again, that's big name in that he was in the Peter Strickland film, who probably people would...
quite niche, I think, isn't it, for people to be like, oh yes, I know, yes, Peter
You're not
Strickland
gonna
films.
you're not getting Mark from EastEnders in a Sarah Kane play, probably. Oh no, maybe you would. Who knows?
Oh God, yeah. Fucking people from EastEnders. Talking of then people from EastEnders, I think.
Oh God.
Fucking. It probably is on your list, but 222 A Ghost Story.
Yeah, you sort of have to talk about it. That's arguably one of the most successful.
Oh no, I think it's good to talk about ones that I fucking hate. I fucking hated that. Hated it.
Yeah, I was so disappointed by it. The main thing that annoyed me about it, is I know I've ranted to you about, is that at the end of every scene, when there's a blackout, there's a massive scream, and it's like, okay, that worked fine, but then it actually isn't even relevant to the story. If it was part of the...
I shit myself.
Yeah.
Shit myself the first time, and I was like, oh, you got me, you buggers. And then the second time it happened, I was like, oh, well, okay. Yeah. And you just know, so it becomes ridiculous. Like, sorry, I'll start getting really angry about that fucking play, because it was such a waste of potential.
I agree. That's what's annoying about it, yeah. And I think it's one of those things that I think is also, like, annoyingly, I feel set the mold a little bit of like, oh, this is how you do successful horror theatre. And I was like, no, don't just do this again. Because one, it wasn't great the first time, but also it's like, but do more. You can do so much more with what horror theatre can be. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't have to just do... I know it's not just people talking in rooms. I know that's a lot of theatre, but you know what I mean? That's basically all 222 is. It's just people chatting, and then a table moves.
And even that is so much of an anticlimax, like, because like you said, it is sort of set that standard, and it was one of the... I know Ghost Stories came first, but like 222 seems to be like the big one, and it runs with all the marketing of, like, you know, the record breaking, you know, ticket sales and all that kind of stuff. And it's a play for normies. It's not a play for horror fans. It's a play for normies, and I get it. Like, Danny was his face off of that thing.
Uncanny,
like, he's going to be writing the play for the widest audience, and I don't want to be an edgelord about it, but like, if you are marketing a play as a horror play, I want it to be scary. I was scared for that that first scream made me do a frighten, and for like maybe the first 10-15 minutes I was like, ooh, what's happening? And then after that I was like, this is fucking shit. Because I wanted something to scare me. There's so much you can do on stage with illusions and just really simple things with like set design, and I could have gone up on the stage and moved a couple of fucking cupboards around backstage, like to, just things like cupboards opening.
Yeah.
Or cupboards slamming, like simple things that they could have done, they didn't do. The thing that I was most pissed off about that they could have done and didn't do was the fact the security light kept coming on out the back. If we'd had a moment of the security light coming on and there being someone there, or something along those lines, that would have been really effective. But they just didn't do anything with it. It was like they were setting up for like, oh, the security light keeps coming on, there's going to be a scare related to this, and then they did nothing with it.
Yeah.
And the whole play just felt full of red herrings like that, like the fox screaming all the time.
Yeah.
Like you could see like fucking Margaret and Malcolm sat next to me going, ah! Every time the fox screaming. I'd be like, well, the fox screaming has done that like 10 times in the first half an hour. It's not scary anymore. And it was just like a waste of potential, but then people keep talking about it like it's just some brilliant thing, and I'm like,
yeah, especially like, because I think I saw Ghost Stories afterwards because I never got to see the original, but like, but that is something that is engaging with the genre and actually doing something on stage. I mean, there's some, I know you're going to be limited in how many tricks you can pull, and obviously, who knows especially what money is available for this production, but you could still do more with what it did. I think it had one interesting idea that, do you want to spoil it? I guess the reveal.
Okay, spoil it. I don't like it enough to not spoil it.
Yeah, and also don't go see it. So if you're taking our advice, then this basically it turns out one of the characters has been a ghost all along, basically, right? And that is sort of interesting. Over there, he's trying to prove. But the idea of then his character's the one who's always talking about it as if ghosts aren't real. So there's something sort of interesting in that. That's clearly what the play is sort of about. But it's not about that, because it turns up at the end and then there's no real ramifications of it. It's no dramatic follow through on it. It's just reveal and literally ends like a couple of minutes later. And it's like,
and like I liked that about it. I thought that was an interesting part of the story. But I
agree.
There were like a couple of little things towards the end that I went, oh, well, that person's been dead the whole time, and that's how the play's going to finish. And then it did, and I just went, like, it was anticlimactic at that point. It wasn't like, oh, but what was really funny is, like I said, it was a play for normies. The people who aren't used to those kind of stories were all like, oh my goodness, what a surprise. And I'm like, did you not see that coming from this thing that just happened and this thing that just happened? It's wild.
Because it's not even that new a trope. Like, you got the Sixth Sense, there's so many stories where that is the reveal. It's like, it's a cliche at this point, right? It's not even... I think the specific framing of it is what's sort of interesting, that he is the skeptic, and you have the clever thing of like, oh, that's why the Alexa equivalent isn't answering him, and it's like, okay, like it's well done, but so what?
Yeah, what I want to do is I want to send an email to this Danny bloke and go, Danny bloke, what I want is to rewrite this play and do like 222 a ghost story extreme or something. Take what is essentially a good story and a well-written play, but just actually fucking be scary. Like, there's so much they could do that would be really fucking scary. They wouldn't even need to change the plot and the script very much. Like, just do some stage effects. Like, when we've got, I know you weren't a fan of it, but like when we've got Paranormal Activity, that show is fucking chock full of stage illusions.
Absolutely, yeah.
And for a play like 222, that's very simple, but because it's been going for such a long time, it's clearly bringing in audiences, it's clearly bringing in money. Like, revamp it a little bit. Just be like, actually, we could put in, even if they put in 2 stage illusions into the play, like, that would elevate it to the point of like, oh, that was good. How did they do that? Like, I love those that was good. How did they do that questions? I love stage magic and stage illusions. but there was just nothing, like nothing fucking happened. And like the set design's beautiful, beautiful set design, gorgeous. Like the way it's lit. I did fucking hate that. Is it Massive Attack song or is it Portishead? I always get Massive Attack and Portishead. But the song that keeps playing, I like that song. That just kept playing all the way through, and I was like, play something else. Like, actively making me hate this song now, to the point if I hear it on anything now, that ding, 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 I'm like, fuck off! Because it just kept playing through the production. And like, I took my friend with me, and she doesn't go to theatre much, but she loves horror. And she just kept like turning and looking at me going, are they fucking serious? Like all the people who were like screaming and stuff, doing those like black parts where we had that music, and she was just like, that wasn't even scary, was it? Is it just me? Was that scary? I was like, no. And like when the play finished, we both looked at each other and just went, and I know I was spoiled. I've been spoiled by, at this point, I'd seen like, I think 8 productions of ghost stories. In the space of a couple of months, I'd seen Ghost Stories, Woman in Black, A Ghost in Your Ear, Paranormal Activity. So I'd seen like 4 productions that genuinely scared me. And then I went and saw 222 and I was like, oh.
Yeah, like I say, it's because it's not doing anything new. Because like I say, those productions you mentioned, like, you know, my theory about Paranormal Activity stage show is they saw 222 be successful, and they go like, okay, we've got a brand that could do the same show basically, and we'll do that. And that's my feeling. Because I think, but like you say, Paranormal Activity at least does commit to being a scary show. It has an incredible, everyone knows the dressing gown sequence. That's the thing you'll remember. Out of that
entire fucking play scared the shit out of me. I was terrified.
Yeah,
absolutely fucking terrified.
So I guess for me, it sort of had a bit of a 222 problem for me in that I felt like there's a lot of people talking. Part of me because I wasn't as invested in the story, and obviously, if you obviously clearly you were, and that's great. So I'm glad you had that experience. And it's not, and like I say, it's better than 222 because that's at least actually trying.
I mean, the way the story wraps up is a little bit, a bit weak, and it does lean very heavily on the illusions, but it's a stage production. I want it to be like, I want there to be a lot of stuff to watch, and like I figured out straight away how they did like the dressing gown.
Okay, you have to tell me off mic.
Oh yeah, it's really simple actually.
I'm sure it is.
I'll tell you now before I forget. We'll cut round it. I can't remember the guy's name who did the illusions.
Yes,
but he is incredible. He did the illusions for the Stranger Things play, which I haven't seen, but I've only heard amazing things about. Like, apparently the stage illusions for that are incredible.
I'm about to say, that is one that's worth seeing, because I'm not someone who's actually, I've watched like 2 episodes of Stranger Things, but I'd heard such good things about the show, and because it's like set before, you don't really need to, apart from like, I think it's sort of this, I think it's one character shows up at the end of the first act that clearly people in the audience knew and I didn't, so I did a quick Google during the interval to, oh right, that's okay, fine. But again, that's a really good. I should be on my list really, because it is a good horror show. Because obviously it's Stranger Things, but again, the staging of that, that is the reason to see it. Definitely.
Yeah, but what's really disappointing then is like, I knew that guy had like a really good reputation for stage illusions. And then I saw Paranormal Activity and I was like, this is going to be scary because I know this guy's done the stuff. And then it was, and it scared me. Fantastic. And then I went to see... What did I go see?
Seance? Is it? No?
Yeah, I went to see The Psychic.
The Psychic, sorry. Yeah.
I knew what you meant. Went to see The Psychic. And because he did the stage illusions, I was like, oh, fuck, here we go. It's going to be real scary. And I know that's on me. That's on me projecting that. But like, it's not a scary play. We don't need to talk about it in this conversation because it's not a horror play. It is a.
You've been on record about this on.
It is
look at your social media. People want to know.
A comedy drama play with some spooky elements in it, and that's a marketing issue. That is, a whole thing. But what does happen on stage is effective, but is very simple. I was expecting like a whole like seance table, fucking floating
Sure.
tambourines, like all sorts of stuff, but it's very, very, very basic.
Hmm.
Sort of candles going out kind of thing, person appearing out of nowhere kind of thing. Very, very simple. But
Hmm.
his name being attached to that production, I was like, whoa, here we fucking go. And then
Yeah.
it wasn't. But
Hmm.
that is an aside.
Yeah.
We'll get over that disappointment at some point.
Yeah.
Sorry, Andy Nyman and Jeremy Dyson. I still love you.
Yeah. But like you said, I think Paramount TV is a stage show. Whereas 222, you could watch that as a drama on TV, even not even a film. Like what I mean, it's nothing actually particularly theatrical about it beyond the bare bones of it's people talking in a room. It's like, yeah, okay, that is technically theatre, but it's not. I mean, especially like you say, it's in the marketing, it's 222 a ghost story. I was like, okay, give me some fucking ghost stuff then, and I know it fits in with what Danny Robinson's whole deal with, because that's what Uncanny is about. Like, you have a skeptic and a believer, and that's the whole thing. So it makes sense that this is what the story is, and that is sort of interesting when you realise that's what it's doing right at the end. And it's not really making you think back to the story that much, ultimately, when I sort of think about it. It's like, beyond that, like, oh, there's some clues, but it's not actually feeding into the overall story that much, really, when I think about it.
Yeah,
So
like
that's,
I think the stunt casting of it now is, I think it just
yeah.
cheapens it. I saw Martin from EastEnders, he was fine. He
Hmm.
wasn't anything like the two non-famous people in it were far better
I'm
actors.
sure, yeah.
And I know there would have been people there who were there because, oh, then people off the telly. I used to like that show, like
Hmm.
Gemma, I think her name is Gemma something, who was in Two
Right.
Pints of Lager. Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh.
loved Two Pints of Lager, loved her in
Hmm.
that. She was fucking awful. Her
Mm,
performance,
yeah.
okay, let's specify because I don't want to be mean about her. Her performance was fine. Her accent was a fucking choice.
Oh, yeah.
She had
Yeah.
some kind of annoying American accent, and I don't know if everybody plays her with an American accent, but it was
Yeah, I
not
can't
needed for
remember.
the character. It was not needed for the part, and it was distracting.
I
She
have a
was
feeling
like,
that was her
"I'm
choice.
from New York, aim for aim," and it was just like, this is terrible. Like, it was probably worse
Mm.
than my little rendition. Then it was to the point
Yeah.
that I couldn't listen to what she was saying because I was like, I can't listen to
Mm.
this anymore.
Yeah.
Just make her a fucking Geordie. Like,
Yeah. Well, like
there's no
Cheryl Cole
reason.
had been in this play before, so it's like, yeah.
But then I
That's what,
think, did Cheryl Cole do an accent? Did
maybe.
was
I don't. I try to remember when I saw it. I don't remember that character having an accent, but it might be just because the place I forget. I've just forgotten most of it. That's the problem. It's like if it wasn't, it certainly wasn't jarring enough that it's stuck in my brain like the performance you
Mhm.
saw. So
I know
I
a lot of
can't
people like
vouch.
it. Like, my
Yeah.
friend went to see it recently. She's a big fan of horror theatre. She really enjoyed it, and I'm like, great, love you and love that
Yeah.
you enjoyed it. And
Hmm.
I'd never discourage people from going to see it because I
Of course.
think if we don't go see stuff, we won't keep getting horror.
Hmm.
And like, more than ever, we need to encourage horror
Hmm.
theatre because it is having a little bit of a resurgence, a renaissance.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's just, it makes me sad. And like the whole stunt casting thing, I just think is tacky. But I do
Yeah.
like to segue onto stage fright. There was a joke
That's
in
what I could.
stage fright about the stunt casting.
Yes, there is.
And I mean,
Yes.
they've got stunt casting in that, but it's part
It's
of the
different.
joke, I think, isn't it? And it's like tipping a
Hmm.
wink to like the
Exactly.
audience because I can't remember what the line is, but they do make a joke about
I know that. Yeah.
something not having stunt casting. Oh, is it maybe in the Grand Guignol bit they talk about stunt
I
casting?
probably. Yeah. I imagine so. Yeah.
And it's one of
Yeah.
those like if you know you know jokes.
Yeah. And that's a show that is fully theatrical, even to the extent of like there's a whole quite trend in theatre at the moment of like having cameras on stage, and like you see this actually the Cynthia Erivo production I saw. My sort of problem with that is that a lot of it is I'm watching Cynthia Erivo on screen rather than actually watching on stage, weirdly, because of how that
Yeah.
layout is. But they make a joke, about it, but also make it theatrical. So I mean, I guess we can spoil this because nobody else. I don't think they're going to do this again, so no one's
No.
ever going to see it now. So you missed your chance. There's a whole thing of like this production in the second half. There's a meta thing of it. They're putting on a show and they're having a camera on stage for it. And at one point, you see someone basically. I can't know exactly what the setup is for this, but they're trying to find. They have the camera. And they're trying to. Oh no, something spooky is happening in the theatre. So the
Yeah,
camera
the
operators.
theatre that we're in is haunted.
Yeah. And so the person the camera has gone, so you're watching on a screen like a found footage thing, basically. And at one point, I can't remember why, she takes the camera off, basically. But then you see the camera moving, so you're watching on the screen, the camera moving by itself. But then the camera comes on stage moving by itself, and you see ourselves on the screen. And it's a really... And I still don't... Because I feel like you do see... I mean, it could just be a clever thing of... It must be... Yeah, I don't know how they did that, but that's again a proper theatrical thing. Even though it's using a literal camera on screen, it's making a joke of the fact that theatre shows do it a lot, but then also doing a really clever use of it that is fully theatrical and scary and really, really effective. And that's sort of the tone for the whole thing of like they're having so much fun of what they can do on stage. Because obviously Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton, and people don't know, they've done stage show amongst in their own line, in their own careers anyway. But obviously Legal Gentlemen started as a stage thing, and they've done stage versions of it since as well, so they're clearly loving the fact that they can do this sort of stories on stage, and that's what makes that production really, really fun.
Yeah, the video stuff though was really funny because I could hear conversations afterwards, people being like, "Oh, how do they do that?" And I'm like, "You dumb fuck! Some of it's pre-recorded, some of it is live. Like it's just cut together. Like it's and I know, and I know that's mean of me to say like you dumb fucks, but like
no,
I think it's just because I'm so invested in like horror and filmmaking and stuff that I'm like, well, it's really easy how they did that. Like, obviously there's people going, "That's me, hello," waving, so we know it's live, but like, so many people were so confused by that portion, and I'm like, that bit's recorded, that bit's live. Like, it'll be part of the recce for the production of like somebody goes and films a bunch of stuff. Like, we don't need to know what the backstage looks like, so it could actually be the same clip all of the time. But I feel probably like Reece and Steve would be like, no, we need to film this theatre.
Well, what's sort of interesting, they did eventually do it on tour, which is sort of interesting, didn't it?
That's when I saw it was on tour.
Right. Which is so interesting because because I got to see it in London, and actually it'd be interesting to know, actually, because they make such a thing about this specific theatre that it was in is literally had that story about the ghost. That's why they sort of did it. Did they sort of talk about... They still did that as if it was, but it's not. Even if that theatre didn't necessarily have a. I mean, to most theatres, I mean that's part of what it's about.
Most theatres have a ghost, don't they?
So did they? Yeah, because I can't. Well, I have to see if it's. I can't remember what the specific one they mentioned. Whether it's the same one or not. I imagine it would be, because I imagine you'll have the same.
Yeah, I think the character of the ghost would be the same in every one, but they just obviously changed the line about, because I saw it in it's Alexandria, I think, in Birmingham.
Okay. Yeah.
My third attempt to go and see it, finally got to see it, hooray. They just changed, so I think every night then they'd just, depending on which theatre they were in, they changed. So that's why I think that they probably would be invested enough to actually film in every theatre to make sure that there's no chance of there being someone like, oh well, that's not the right dressing rooms for this theatre. I just feel like that they would do that because it's part of the experience. I don't feel like they would use the same footage.
It's only like, I don't know, a couple of minutes, so it's like, wouldn't take time out of their schedules to really get something there. But it's funny you talk about you can see how I know how they did the thing, and it doesn't make it less effective. But like, it's like the jump scare I think it's the end of the first half. It's like, okay, we get a light on the box, and it looks like it's moving, and I knew it's distraction. I know something's going to happen on the rest of the stage. It's going to be a jump scare. I know it, and it still got me.
Could you give I can't remember what I remember. Shitting myself, but I can't remember. Was it?
It's when the ghost appears. Like it's basically just done the whatever it is, the Clifton, the dressing room sketch story, and it's just this box on stage that they've been using.
Oh yeah, and the lit face, scary thing.
And so you've got a spotlight on that, and then suddenly, all the lights go on. It feels like there's a big screaming bloody ghost there screaming in your face, and that's the end of the first act, and it's absolutely terrifying. Even though I knew exactly what was going to happen, it still scared the shit out of me. And again, that's just a testament of like, it's just fun. Like you're having real fun of like the tools you've got available. Even the very beginning, I don't know if I assume they did this, of like the warning about turning off your phone. Did they do that in the production you saw?
Yes. Yeah. But I can't remember specifically.
It's a whole sketch of like Reece Shearsmith is sat indoors and everyone keeps making noise, and it becomes basically a PSA to be quiet when you're watching a play, basically. It's a whole like 5 minute skit. But also that's when they do, I guess we could reveal this, of the joke of the whole show. Turns out that they said, Reece Shearsmith has died and we've actually had an actor playing him.
Oh yeah, Toby.
But that's when you see the swap happen, because the guy at the start is Toby, and then he goes away and Reece Shearsmith comes on. I'm pretty sure something like that happens, basically. And it's like, that's sort of when that happens, basically. which again is very clever.
Yeah, because I clocked that and I was like, oh, like there must have been some kind of like
it's weird, yeah,
delay backstage or something why he's just come on now. And
yeah,
again, I think it's that like investment in like I don't know whether I'm sure most people would have noticed, but like people who are into horror theatre and horror, whether they would have clocked that more because like with Reese and Steve, you know you've got to pay attention to everything because
yeah.
everything's gonna come back around, everything's gonna feed in. So I don't know whether like the majority audience for Inside Number 9 would have clocked that straight away because they're so in. Because I was like, why did Reese come on? Like, why wasn't he on stage? Why did he come on when he came on?
Yeah,
But whether everyone would have noticed that, I don't know. But
yeah, I definitely noticed that happening and being a bit odd, but then I sort of forgot about it until afterwards, and then post reveal, and then afterwards talking about, oh well, yeah, because then that's what that meant. And sort of like it's such an innocuous thing that happens that you don't realize. But like you say, so there's the devil in the detail sort of thing of like, yeah.
Yeah, I did expect. I mean, I loved it and I cried. It was such an emotional thing to watch. But like the bit where the fucking violinist started playing the theme tune, I was like, just
so good.
Like a woman came out with a violin and I went, shut up, really loud, and then I was just like just crying like a fucking idiot. But I did expect it to be scarier.
Yeah.
I did expect it to be gorier because just obviously everyone was very well behaved. They weren't sharing like what was going on, but like my sister gave me like a rough thing of like, well, there's some sketches, then there's like this bit with like a surprise guest, and then there's this bit, and she said about the Grand Guignol stuff. And when I found out that Dan Martin from 13 Finger Effects was involved in the effect, I was like, oh, this is going to go off the fucking hook.
Yeah.
But actually it is in that OTT, really, the stuff in the Grand Guignol. But I loved it.
Yeah, but I
expected a bit heavier on the scares and the blood and guts because of that like immersive thing. It would be so easy to scare people.
I guess that's it's mainly just in the second half basically when you get that, really, because again you get this meta thing of like there is a production of this Grand Guignol thing, and then it turns out it's about people doing a production of that, but then the ghost is involved, and I can't remember exactly how that all plays out, but yeah,
it was very good and very clever. I kind of expected to be a bit more scared because of how much they both love live theatre, they both love horror. I thought it would have gone a bit harder, but maybe I mean, once people are in the theatre, it doesn't fucking matter. They've already got the money. But, like, maybe they didn't want to go too hard on it, maybe. But
and maybe because they knew people might be expecting that. So I think maybe they wanted to sort of, like, they're always very conscious of, like, they were aware, especially as Inside Number 9 went on, like, it became the show with a twist in it, which I know Reece Shearsmith hates that. It'd be described as like that. But it's always, I think they're always very aware of, like, they don't want to just do the obvious thing. With this, so I guess because I think I knew that it was going to be they would be doing an Inside Number 9 episodes in it. I
was a bit disappointed that Bernie Clifton's dressing room was such a big chunk because controversially that's not one of my favourite episodes. Like their performances in it are great, and I remember the first time I watched it, like it was it was a very emotional episode, but like so much of the play being centered around that. I was like, there's other ones you could do. Like if they did oh my god, what's it called? I've literally got a thing on the wall outside the door. The one from the first series.
The Harrowing?
The Harrowing with Hector. I remember Hector, but I couldn't remember the episode name. Like if they did something like that, or like the Seance episode. Like the Seance episode, I know it's predominantly funny, but that scared me.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I kind of, if they were going to do episodes, I kind of expected more of those things. But again, it's not doing the obvious thing. And the audience fucking love Bernie Clifton's dressing room. Yeah. And there's through lines in the plot that then feed into the bigger plot. So I get it.
Yeah, it's the most theatrical, arguably probably the most theatrical episodes. Like, it's just like, it makes it a bit easier in a way of like, to translate that to stage compared to, I really like the one was like, it's technically a spoiler for the episode about the vampire police.
Oh, that was fucking great.
Yeah, I really like that one. But again, that's not something one that would work on stage because it'd be just them sitting in a car, which probably would be the most interesting theatrical thing.
Who was your special guest?
Charlie Hickson. And he who's did like the Fast Show and things like. You probably would recognize his face.
I don't
He
know.
makes a joke. His basically line is like, you cast every other British comedy actor apart from me inside Number 9. I mean, because I think he's in their circles and then like social circles. He's mostly writing. He writes like zombie books for kids and things like that.
Oh, okay.
And like young Bond books. Who's yours?
I had Sean.
Oh, Sean Gibson.
Sean Gibson.
Oh,
yeah,
I think we must have talked about this before.
When they pulled the thing off, at first I was like, I don't know who that is.
Sure.
And then when they like say who is she, and they said Sean Gibson, and like the audience went mad, and they said Sean Gibson, and I was like, I still don't know, because we were quite far back, so I couldn't see particularly well. But also the name then didn't ring a bell, and I was like, oh shit. But then. And he was like, oh, you know, it's Sean Gibson from this and this. And I was like, I haven't seen any of these shows. And then they said about Car Share or whatever it's called. And I went, oh, I know she is then. And then I got excited.
Yeah.
And
have you seen those bloopers where he keeps making her laugh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Reese said something to her, and she went, you know, it was that show that we were in together where you sang that song. What was that song? And he just sort of stopped and looked at her and went, you fucking bitch, kind of thing. She went, how did it go again? And he started singing Informer, and I shrieked with glee, because that video is one of my favourite things in the world ever, and I will watch him going, to keep a mum down, and everything, in his fucking Papa Lazarou voice. And I will weep laughing. So getting to hear him do a little bit of that on stage.
Yeah,
and he was like,
jealous.
He did the lyrical dance flop bit, and I was just like, oh my, I cried because I was just I got like flappy hands, and I cried because I was just like, oh my god. I was like, thank you, Sean Gibson, for making him do that. But yeah, that was one of the best moments of my life. That was getting to hear lyrical dance flop
live
with my actual ears. Well, I mean, I hear on the telly with actual ears.
No, I know what I mean.
You know what I mean?
You could feel the sound waves of him doing it.
Yes, it was beautiful. I want to cry now because that was just magical. But honestly, that was the best part of the whole fucking play for me, was getting to hear him do Informer.
Yeah, they are both. Again, we're talking about like stunt casting. Like, these are guys who are both theatre performers. They've done shitloads of theatre outside of. Actually, I saw Steve Pemberton actually in a horror. Actually, in a sort of horror play. Have you heard of The Pillow Man?
No, but that sounds fucking horrible. I don't like it.
Well, it's by Martin McDonagh. You know, the guy who did like Banshees of Inisherin and In Bruges and all that. I have not beef with him. I have issues because he keeps on being fucking ableist and everything he does, including The Pillow Man. That was my last straw. I was like, fuck Martin McDonagh. He keeps being fucking ableist and everything right. But that's about a play. I'm trying to know what it's about, because it had Lily Allen in, who was actually really good, and Steve Pemberton. And it's about Steve Pemberton's a police officer. It's him and another police officer interviewing a guy who's a serial killer, and they're trying to sort of get him to confess stuff. And he keeps on telling these stories that are sort of like tangentially related to it. Sort of like stories within stories sort of thing going on. And it gets quite dark and horrible, basically. But yeah, that's my tangent on that. So, but again, that's again, not strictly a horror play, but it's like it's about a serial killer, and you see stuff. They talk about horrible things, basically, a lot.
I don't know that.
Yeah, but so Steve Pemberton, they're theatre performers. So
yeah,
it's
I've seen Reese. I mean, I am the person who goes to see things because Reese is in it.
Yeah,
I went to see him in. I can't even remember what it was called. It was fucking awful. It was awful. It was a comedy.
Oh, I think it might be
Francis Barber.
Yeah, I've seen this as well. The Unfriend.
Oh my god, it was so bad. It was written for middle-aged gammons who read the Daily Mail. Oh my god, it was fucking. Yeah. Did you like it? I thought it was fucking awful.
Me and my friend, we liked the record. He's written by Stephen Moffat, who did like Sherlock and that. And I like his writing usually, but it was I can't disagree with you on that. And obviously, Casa Francis Barber in it. It's obviously a big no, because she sucks. But
yeah, was that after.
Yeah, Reece Shearsmith he was very good in it. I thought he was very funny.
He was fantastic.
So it was worth to see him. But yes, I know what you mean about the play.
Yeah, a few minutes into the play when all the audience were all like, just sat there going, that wasn't funny. and we were like, oh god, here we go for the rest of the
Yeah.
thing. And she like
Yeah.
even glared at me, and I was like, I just wanted to see Reese in a play, okay? Like,
No.
I think
Yeah.
there were a lot of like Inside Number 9 and League of Gentlemen fans that you could see the fucking weirdos in the
Oh, you
audience who were
probably,
there to
yeah.
see Reese,
Yeah.
and then they
Because
were all just like,
it
no,
was directed by Mark Gatiss as well.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
thought, like, I didn't have any illusion that it was going to be weird or like
Mm.
quirky or anything. I
No,
knew it was,
yeah.
but I didn't think it would be as like,
Yeah, I get that. I think I enjoyed it as like a sort of very unextraordinary like farce. I felt like, but yeah, in terms of like what it's actually about, it's like wasn't that interesting. But hey,
yeah,
um, anyway, what's a fun thing we can talk about instead? What's a good play we
fun
can talk about?
things.
Have you seen Little Shop of Horrors on stage?
I haven't.
Because it is because I mean I assume you've seen the film. I assume.
Yes.
And do you know that the ending's different?
No.
Ah, right. Okay. Again, well, if you want to hear me wax lyrical about Little Shop of Horrors, go check out the pop screen episode I did where in that episode I realised how much I'm obsessed with Little Shop of Horrors. So basically, obviously, so the film ends with I mean, I'm not going to explain the plot for Little Shop of
Yeah,
Horrors.
don't spoil it for me. Don't spoil it for me.
Oh,
Like, I
okay.
will
Well,
go see it, but
basically,
it's
it's
always
not.
just fucking Amdram, and I'm like, I don't. Sorry, Amdram kids. I
No,
don't want to go
to
see
be
it.
fair, I've seen two books of Benjamin. They're both quite fun. I think that's the thing. I think the show is strong enough that, like, you know, if it's done competently, it's hard to sort of fuck up to some degree. I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's not the ending's radically different. It's basically just the ending is more bleak,
Okay.
basically, which they did do for the. That's what's interesting about the films. They did do that for the film. But then they tested it in front of audiences, and audiences didn't like it, so they sort of redid the ending, basically. But you can see a director's cut of the film, which does have that ending in it. It's sort of like a weird middle ground, because so that's me.
Oh, I've only ever seen the like theatrical cut of it.
Yeah, I think it is out there now. I think before it was like you could just see it in black and white, basically that footage. But I think they have done a proper like you can actually get like a director's cut version of it. But otherwise, the stage show is not. Otherwise, there's not much difference really between the film and the stage show. But obviously, part of the stage show appeal is that you have this giant puppet.
I was saying, I
plant.
fucking love puppets. So like,
Yeah.
I know most Amdram like hire a big ass puppet.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that if I'm seeing puppets on stage, I'm seeing real good puppets on stage.
That's fair. Well, weirdly, actually, I think it's being done like 3 or 4 times in the UK this year for some fucking reason. It's like there's like 4 different productions going on this year. I think almost overlapping with each other. And
I find it really odd that it's not still on the West End.
I know, because it's been on off Broadway. It's been off Broadway. It's been going for years for some reason, but they did a revamp of it lately. So yeah, I don't know why it's not come back to the West End for a while.
Again, it's one of those ones that you could do stunt casting with, of having
yeah, absolutely.
whoever in as a run for the dentist, whoever in as
Audrey,
Audrey, because they're quite easy parts. Oh, I mean, not so much Audrey, because like obviously Ellen Green is fantastic in the film, but
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's not like the most challenging roles you'll ever.
yeah,
as long
you
as you
could
can be, as long as you can be
switch her
funny.
out. Yeah, same as like what's his Seymour? Like what's his name? Fucking feed me Seymour. Like Seymour doesn't need to be a strong singer, so they could put somebody in, and like obviously the dentist doesn't need to be able to sing, even though is it Steve Martin? Is that his name?
Yes, he is. Yeah,
he can sing.
He's great.
But yeah, it's surprising that's not one that's still running.
Yeah, well, because I think there's lots of touring productions going on. I think, or like, so if you Google it, you find a bunch to hopefully be able to. But yeah, I mean, and there's not much. Yeah, it's like I say, it's not much difference really in terms of the plot. I think there's one like number that gets. There's a couple of numbers there's a number that gets shortened in the film, and then you know Mushnick, the guy who runs the shop. He has a number of Seymour. He's basically trying to get Seymour to. He called Mushnick and Sons. So he's basically trying to adopt Seymour because now he's successful. He wants to keep him under his finger, basically. And that's basically just like and that's sort of like a Jewish style, like bat mitzvah style number, which is quite fun.
Fun.
Yeah, I think I really like the show because I think it's just a really silly. Again, I mentioned this. What I think is interesting about it is with horror theatre, like we sort of been talking about, is like there can be a sort of a difficult, especially with a horror musical, of the difficulty of like suspending your disbelief to some degree, or like maintaining sort of any sort of tension with it. But I think what's good about Little Shop of Horrors is like, okay, we're adapting this 60s B horror movie that's got a talking plant in it. If you can't and the fact that talking plant can sing should be the least of your problems, right? Like if you're into this show about a giant talking plant, you shouldn't care whether it sings or not. There's songs as well, and if you do, then this isn't the show for you.
No.
And I'd probably put it as like actually one of my favorite musicals because it is. I think the songs are really catchy. Because obviously it's the guy Alan Menken and Howard Ashman who did a bunch of all the best Disney movies.
Aladdin.
Yeah, Aladdin, Little Mermaid.
They did loads. There was like Little Mermaid.
But yeah, Aladdin's
well. Did Alan Menken do Beauty and the Beast as well? I think they did.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid.
Like, golden age of
basically
90s Disney bangers.
They basically invented it, yeah. But Little Shop of Horrors was like their second ever musical, basically. Back in whenever it was the 80s or whatever. So that's sort of like where they started. So that's quite fun. But yeah, I mean, it's one where again you wouldn't. It's not thinking it's one of those like it's technically horror theatre. But it's like well, it is horror. it's that flavour of fun B movie horror, which I think a lot of horror musicals tend to be like a lot. You got Rocky Horror. I think Reaper the Genetic Opera. I think that started on stage. I mean that's.
It's one of my favourites. I'd love to see it on stage.
Yeah, I don't know how it has been done since it started now.
I don't think so.
No,
or maybe it's like Rocky Horror. Maybe it just pops up every now and then.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like it's due a revival. I'd see it.
Well, yeah, it's the 25th anniversary this year, so they're doing cinema re-releases in the States. I doubt we'll get one over here.
No, probably not.
But I'd imagine there's something bubbling somewhere.
That'd be nice.
Because it's a fantastic show.
Yeah. But just how it would work on stage as well. Be curious. But then I haven't actually seen Evil Dead musical.
No.
I'd be intrigued how that works. I know it's meant to have like a splash zone. There's even Teeth, the musical. Did you know about this?
No.
Yeah, that's happening. He's in Broadway. I've got the recording somewhere. Isn't like the cast recording of the soundtrack. I haven't listened to it. I think again that sounds fun, but I only know because they had like a splash zone. Same with American Psycho, the musical as well.
There's so many. Like I haven't seen any of them, but there's so many. I know I could probably watch them on YouTube, but I don't want to experience them like that. But like, I know there was Night of the Living Dead had a stage production, maybe a musical. And I think they did some of that in the round where, like with the splash zone in Evil Dead, they had X amount of seats that were like, well, the whole show wasn't in the round. There was like a section on stage where there were so many people sort of like in the danger zone, sort of there in the action. Right. I heard about that on a podcast actually, but I can't remember which one it was. But there's so many adaptations that I would love to see, and I know there's the audience for them. It's just like, where's the money coming from to do it? Like, I'd love to see the Evil Dead musical.
Yeah,
love to see that.
Actually, wasn't that like? Yeah, it's interesting how like, it's weird how like a lot of horror theatre, a lot of it is musicals. It's sort of interesting.
I want to see the Thor musical.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. It's not like an. Is it a full? No, is it a full length one? Is it actually a full length thing now? Or is it just like an hour? It might be. I don't know. I know what you mean. I've heard of it though, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I know it from all the clips that ended up going like viral on TikTok and stuff.
Oh sure, yeah.
And I think then because it did so well on social media, people like sneaky filming it went for longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, they haven't brought it over here, which I'm surprised. I know it's a pretty small production, but
yeah,
it's what we deserve. I want the Thor musical because we all know that Adam and Dr. Gordon are very much in love.
Absolutely.
We need to see their big gay romance songs on stage.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's been quite a lot of horror movies being made into films, I feel like, in the last few years. Like the St. Maud one, wasn't there? That was like in like...
Shut up.
In like, I can't remember where it was, like Newcastle or somewhere.
Really?
Like, yeah, it's weird. And there's that... And I saw Under the Shadow.
I didn't hear very good things about the play.
It again, it's that thing of like, it felt like copying the 222, not fully list, but in terms of like, what horror theatre can be. We'll do a ghost story and we'll do more or less similar sort of tricks. And like the horror stuff was good, and the story was good. And actually, I didn't realize it has actually an actor from the film in it playing the same part, which is like, that's cool. So, wow.
Have you seen Let the Right One In?
No, I've heard good things about that. I would like to, and obviously I don't know if that's more of the book or of the film. I don't know, but yeah, I'd be interested to see how that.
I think he does align more with the book.
Yeah, the book's dark. The book's really fucking dark.
I haven't read the book because I have a million books and don't read any of them.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I know somebody who went to see it in Manchester a couple of years ago, and they said it was
Mm.
fantastic.
Mm.
And there's a production on, I don't know whether it's finished or whether it's started yet, but I think it's the National Youth Theatre are doing it, which makes
Oh yeah, I
sense
think I've heard
because,
about
young characters. And I
that.
was going to try and get tickets, but just forgot. But I
Yeah,
would
that's
really love to see that.
yeah, that's the thing with theatres. Like, if you don't remember to book it, then it's like, oh, that's now gone, and I'll never get to see that again. So
Yeah.
it's like a haunting of Hill House, which is basically rattling off upcoming horror films. Basically, as we were saying, it feels like there's a real appetite for it at the moment. I think people are like really interested in it, it just seems to be like a mix. So you've got like adaptations, you've got musicals, you've got original stuff. Like, yeah, Ghost in Your Ear, I know you talked about.
Oh my God, it's so fucking good.
Sounds really, that
Yeah,
sounds like my shit.
it's just been announced that it's going over to Broadway. I'm not sure if it's
Yeah.
off or off Broadway, but it's in the Audible theatre, so I'm guessing it's like a pretty like on Broadway theatre.
Yeah. And maybe that means they'll maybe record it. We have to get Audible to listen to it, maybe.
I mean,
But
it works perfectly as something to like work with Audible because
yeah,
obviously there are visual elements to the play, but
yeah,
that focus of it being headphones and binaural sound
yeah.
is so clever, and it's well written. The actors that were in it were fucking fantastic. There's only two people, and it is
Okay.
mostly the one guy, and he was fantastic. So I don't know. Is George Blagden was the guy
Okay.
who played the lead in it, and I'm not sure whether they'll take him over to New York. I hope they do because he was fantastic.
Yeah, it makes sense. Doesn't it?
But I'm hoping that because it's going over to New York, it'll do well over there, and they'll put it on tour because they could tour it. It would be the set is really small. It's that interactive element of the headphones that I think would be the challenge. And what was
Yeah.
really nice is I think there was probably 100 people max. It was a real
Oh wow.
small
Okay.
space. And when you go into, like, you walk down the corridor into the little theatre room and it's just dark with a red light on for like recording, like a studio.
Nice.
So creepy. And you go into the room and it's just a red light on in there. So you got to like find a seat and sit down. And criticism about the theatre nor the play was like the seats were like bench seated, so you were very squished in. And you just had to sort of like squish in. So it was a bit uncomfortable, but that did add to the experience in a lot of ways of like
Yeah.
everybody really felt like you were in it together. That element of having the headphones on was so cool. And like there were times when I didn't know if a sound was happening through the soundscape they created or elsewhere in the room. So like that was quite unsettling.
Yeah.
But it was really cool because it was like when you went in, it was dark in the room with the red lights, and then there's plexiglass because it's all
Right.
set in. It's all set
Record-
in a
recording
recording
booth,
studio,
yeah.
and he's recording an audiobook,
Okay.
very much like A Woman in Black, of like two people recalling a story and then the story being told to us,
Yeah.
which was very, very effective. But then when you get in there at the beginning, like, because there's no light on behind the plexiglass, all you can see is the reflection of the audience, and everyone just sat there with their headphones on going, oh, I'm scared. And as part of the like waiting, you've got to make sure you put your headphones on, make sure they're working, and they're testing the audio, and they're like, this is an audio play, you get sound over here, sound over here. And they say to you, like, if you get too scared at any point, just take your headphones off.
Oh.
But you would still be able to hear things.
Yeah.
But just it wouldn't be as intense. You haven't got like
That's nice.
someone literally in your ear. And it was very scary, but also very enjoyable because the lead actor's very handsome, and there are times when he's got the microphone and he's like whispering beautiful things in your ear. And I was just like, okay, whispering in my ear. But then that was also like incredibly intense, and like,
Yeah.
because it's really fucking scary. Like, they've got a headphone like binaural mic on the stage, so he is walking
right,
around the microphone. So it's really cool because it's like a meta thing again of like seeing how they're doing it, and he's whispering and you can hear it then in this ear, and so it's obviously done like a live thing. It's not like a manipulated sound. But it was just really cool, and it was really simple in its story, really simple in its production, but it did enough with it, unlike 222, that like when it did do something, it was very effective. And I saw quite a few of the scares come in, but it didn't take anything. And I think that's just because I've seen a lot of horror theatre now, that I could sort of be like, oh, I think they might do this there, and just from what I knew the writers' inspirations were, I could sort of go, okay, I think I know where some of this is going. But it's still, I was utterly gripped. I was utterly terrified, like grabbing onto my friend's arm. And I was all sweaty, you know, and you can feel like your like your hands are all clammy. And at the end, I was like, I'm so sorry, because I was like sweating all over it. Like, it was really scary. And I really hope that gets a tour, or at least comes back over, because you love it. You definitely love it.
I'm so gutted I missed it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it was, you know, it was such a small run, and I know they extended it, but because the theatre was so small as well, like, there was hardly any tickets. I was really lucky to have like a press ticket for it. But yeah, it was.
It's one of those. I thought like Ghost Stories wasn't that like big when it started. Or maybe it was. I think it might have been in the West. I don't know if it was in the West End Theatre. It was
in the Lyric and Hammersmith it opened in, and then in Duke of York. I saw it in Duke of York, so I think it was a consecutive run, but it was the second theatre it was in. And I got to see it with Andy.
Ooh,
got to see it with Andy, and I was in like the second row, so I was sat right in front, and I was like, "It's the guy from Dead Set." I loved Dead Set when that came out. I watched it like as it aired. So I was really excited there was the guy from Dead Set. So and I went on my own, and it was just like, honestly, I've still never been as scared in my entire fucking life as I was that first performance.
That's the thing, you never forget. That's the thing, and it's almost like a nice way to sort of cap this conversation where like that is sort of what's special about horror theatre compared to horror cinema or even reading horror. It's like, I think you're all in the same room watching the same scary thing happening in front of you, helpless to do anything about it, isn't it? And it's like, I think that's why Woman Black, that's the scariest thing I've seen across any medium, because it's that happened right in front of me there, and every so often I will get a nightmare of like, is that the Woman Black standing in the dark corner? It's like, I think that's why we go back, because it's that thrill you get when you're watching a film, but it's actually like, oh, that's actually right there in front of me there, and that could come get me. Like the cop breaking scene in Ghost Stories. That freaked me out.
That's fucking audio for me to edit later when I scream. Oh my god! Like every fucking time, I know that play beat by beat by beat. I could literally go but for like a thing happening, because I know the time cues and everything. But every time I shit myself when that happens. And bearing in mind, first time I saw it, I was in the second row on the corner.
Oh god, exactly. No!
So when my now ex had said to me, he'd been to see it in the Lyric a couple of months before, and he was like, watch out for the cot, and I went, oh fuck. And then when the cot was there, like literally,
oh no,
Callahan screaming in my fucking face, and I was just like, fucking shit myself. I thought I was gonna die, but every time that scares me, because I know exactly when he's gonna appear, but it still gets me. But what I think Ghost Stories does really well, and A Ghost in Your Ear did the same thing, is like saying about that immersiveness, don't have breaks. A Ghost in Your Ear also didn't have an interval, which then makes it that much more intense. Oh, I don't think did it? No, I'm sure it didn't have an interval. I'm sure it went all the way through. And like 80 minutes is not a long time to sit there without an interval. And for me, like 222, I was bored, and then the interval happened, and I was like, I want to come back to the second half, but I will, because I want to see how it plays out. So having that break to go and get a drink and have a wee and everything, like any kind of tension that I was carrying had gone by then.
Yeah.
Same with Woman in Black. Like, I was surprised, actually. I would have loved that to have been a straight through. I mean,
Yeah.
I was terrified the whole thing. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. No, I know
And
you
even
mean.
though I knew the story and I'd heard enough people talking about the stage production that I knew where the scares were coming from, I was still really scared. But having a little break in that sort of like calmed me down a little bit. And I think
Yeah, I get that.
Pontypool did it, and like we
Yeah.
both seen Pontypool, so we know why they had to have the break where they had the break.
Yes.
Yeah. But
And,
that for me then killed it a little bit. That that build up, like the first half, I was just like, oh, it was so stressed, and then that amazing set piece, fantastic.
yeah.
But then I went off and had a break and came back, and I was like,
especially when that's meant to be
okay.
sort of real time, I think, as well, mostly, I think. So that's sort of, I sort of had to think about with Paranormal Activity. I feel like that would have benefited being straight through as well, to be honest.
In fairness, I think everyone was so scared in the performance I went to that everyone just spent the entire break just going, I don't like it, I'm frightened.
Yeah, so it's literally balanced.
That would work really nicely all the way through. I think that ability to go have a piss and being really stressed out because you're in a queue and there's 2 toilets, like
that's the
theatre
horror.
was so small. It was a very uncomfortable viewing experience. You're a lot taller than me. I can't imagine it being very comfortable for you. Like my knees were squished up against the seat.
That's the real horror theatre, is bad seats and not enough
Squished
toilets.
into tiny London theatres. But I think for newer productions, it is a good idea to just straight through.
Yeah, it's more of a trend.
I know it's hard for the performers, and you're more likely to have people getting up and going for a pee and stuff if they run all the way through and disrupting the performance. But do the ghost stories rule. If you leave, you don't get to come back in. I know. I know Paranormal Activity did that as well. Like,
oh, did they?
I'm sure they had like no readmittance, but there were people coming back and forth in my performance because it was distracting me and I was getting really annoyed.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they did a no readmittance.
I think you might be right, actually. Yeah.
I think they did the same for A Ghost in Your Ear as well. Like if you left tough.
Yeah, I think
it breaks that immersion, and I think that immersion is so important in horror theatre. But saying about like the Woman in Black, I saw it in the Theatre Royal in Bath, which is one of my favourite theatres. It is beautiful. But because of the layout, it is like a really round theatre space. And there is the first lot of stalls are like tiered stalls.
Yeah.
But there's no access down the centre. They haven't got a central aisle.
Oh, okay.
So you miss one of the really scares. So I do want to go see it somewhere else. So bits that I thought were going to happen didn't happen. I don't know whether like they compensated for it elsewhere and did something else, because I haven't seen any other productions of it. I've only seen it the once. But where I was sitting, I was at like on the first bit of the circle, so I had a really good view, but I was like, oh wait, she's not going to be able to walk down the middle because there's space around the outside.
Yeah, so
there's nowhere for her to come. So I kept thinking, oh, she's going to appear like at the back of the circle, maybe where I was. Be like, oh shit, where she appears there. So because of where we were sat, I kept like looking all the time, like, fuck, she's going to appear because I'll shit myself. She didn't, because of the limitations of the theatre. So that is an interesting thing, like when they go on tour, limitations of stuff.
Absolutely.
She did run in front of the stage at one point, so maybe that was instead of the like walking down the middle. But yeah, I was like, even though I wasn't sat in one of those seats, it was still disappointing anyway to like not experience the other people.
Yeah,
that's something I've enjoyed with ghost stories. Keeping going to see it again, I know when the scares are, so like taking my friends and being like,
you're like my evil A-level drama teachers.
Yeah, it was like sitting there watching, like waiting for people to get the scares. Or like one of my favourite performances of ghost stories was sat up in the front row of the grand circle, so I was right on the edge and being able to like lean over a little bit and watch everybody below me when I knew the scares were coming, and just being like, just like watching everybody else react, and it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And like, because it was such a I think that was like my third time seeing it, because it was such a different performance for me. When they did a Q&A afterwards, because of course I went to the performance for the Q&A,
obviously.
And it was all of the cast, like Andy or Jeremy wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I asked the cast about how do they not like break with like come on brain, but I found it fucking hilarious, all the people screaming and being able to see people like grabbing their friends and being like, oh my god, and like I found it so funny. And I was like, does it ever, like, do any of the reactions from the audience like ever make you laugh? I said I can imagine it being so scary, because like the rumbly bumblies are so loud in the dressing room. Like I know this because they were talking about it, but like it's so loud and it's so dark back there. Like it must be pretty intense, but they obviously are used to it. They're not gonna be scared.
Yeah.
So maybe that helps with like the thing. But I don't know how I wouldn't like break on stage because of like, one, from the glee of watching people screaming their fucking heads off, but because of some of the reactions that happen.
Yeah.
Like people swear, people shout, people do all sorts of stuff. But that evil enjoyment of other people being terrifying is fantastic, like a evil A-level drama teacher.
Yeah, like doing horror theatre must be quite difficult. Like you have to act scared every single time, right? And I think part of my disappointment with Under the Shadow, I think, is that I saw like the second to last performance and it was a matinee, so I feel like probably that energy might have been a bit spent when I saw it. It wasn't the most energetic performance.
Yeah,
because it is going to be demanding, and like you said about the actors, especially, it's to do these shows and you've got to be as scared and scary every single time. And obviously, like you're not necessarily thinking in terms, you've got to think of that, but also be aware of if you've got complicated effects, of making sure you're in the right spot and things like that to make sure the effects are. So that must be it'd be interesting. It would be an interesting experience being in a horror show, of like, how do you sort of get that balance right, making sure you're selling it while also doing it right, and not just treating it as like, oh yeah, either laughing at it or it's like, oh I know this thing's going to happen now, blah blah blah.
And I think that's the beauty of getting to see shows more than once, like with Ghost Story.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Sort of going, oh, this didn't feel right in the audience, because I know that, like, because I am that guy. I've seen productions where I'm like, those tech cues didn't hit quite right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So like sometimes the scares aren't going to hit as much because of that. And I know the people in the audience don't know that, and maybe they just think it wasn't as scary. But it is interesting to see how like tours affect things, and I think
definitely
touring is something for horror theatre that's probably going to be more commonplace, because theatres might not want to put big money into putting a production on, so they're going to tour. So I think there's a Hill House one, like you said, touring this year around Halloween. Stop putting scary things on at Halloween. I know why you're doing it, but also we're all fucking busy already at Halloween. So I don't know. Like, I don't think I can go see that one. I think the nearest one to me is like Cambridge or something, which is a bit of a schlep. There's no Welsh date. And I've
always liked a theatre. I've always liked in Mold, like the theatre. What's it called? What's the one in Mold? What's it called again?
No, I don't know. What's it called? It is is it Aberdeen?
No, what's it called? Anyway, you know what I mean.
No, maybe there is a Welsh date then, and I'm thinking of something else.
Maybe. But it's still a bit of a trek, because it's like North
Wales,
basically.
There's a couple at the moment. I know It Walks Around the House at Night was touring. I really wanted to see that, but I don't know if it's still touring. There's the Hill House one, and there's another one. There's another ghostly one. There's quite a few touring at the moment.
Interesting.
And we've got Signs of the Lambs.
I was just about to say, because they've started showing pictures of that, because that's, I assume, started that tour now.
Which I'm really excited about when they announced the casting, because John What's-His-Face was one of the original Rum Tum Tuggers on London, and I was obsessed with him as a child.
Interesting.
And seeing him as a character that I fancy, oh my god, I'm going to be sat in the audience, absolutely fucking feral. Maybe I shouldn't be allowed to go and see it. But no, I need to sort out tickets for that because
You have to be in a Hannibal get up with the mask.
Oh my god! John Partridge, that's his name. John Partridge.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I was so confused as a child watching the VHS tape of the London cast recording of Cats and being like, why do I love this cat so much? And when he appeared on EastEnders, which one of the few EastEnders castings of people I enjoy, I was like, this is stirring up some feelings in me. What is it? It was that I fancied Rum Tum Tugger as a child.
There you go.
But yeah, we are very lucky that there are lots of productions going on at the moment. So we may even do a part 2 of Horror Theatre because I'm going to try and go and see as much as I can. I know you will too. And there's so many productions that we haven't even mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
That we could have talked about more in depth or just talked about at all. So yeah, maybe we'll do part 2. I'm up for part 2. That'd be fucking great. Because there's so many things, and I know both of us will like hang up and we'll be like, oh, for fuck's sake, we didn't mention this one or this one.
Exactly, absolutely.
And like, I got more ghost story related stories to tell.
Brilliant.
Since I recorded my episode, because I saw the audio described performance.
Interesting.
Which was a completely different experience, and I got to touch props and scenery as well,
cool.
which, oh my god, best day of my life. But so the people can keep tabs on you and your writing and what you're up to. In the meantime, before we do episode 2, where can people find you, Mike?
Probably best place. I'm on Instagram and I think Blue Sky as well. I think that's about it these days. I'm at Autistic Horror, and I'm Mike Leitch on Letterboxd if you want to hear me talk about films. If you want to.
They want to hear you talk about films.
That's more just random thoughts I have when I'm watching films. So that's a good place to find me. Have I got anything about horror theatre? Have I written anything about horror theatre? Don't think I have, but maybe this would be a good prompt to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do it. Well, what we'll have to do is we'll have to we'll have to win the lottery first, but we'll go and see as many productions as we can, and then we can both write reviews on them.
Perfect.
And then we can do episode 2 about the things we've been to see, because there are plenty of things out at the moment. And I'll cut this bit out, but I need to send some more emails trying to get press for stuff, because there's so many of them. And as soon as I email them and go, oh, I've done press for this one, this one, this one, this one, they go, oh yeah, okay, when do you want to come? And I'm like, great, thanks. So
that's exciting.
I'll try and hook us up with some press and stuff. Mwah.
Thank you.
Free tickets, love it. And we'll be able to read your reviews in Filmhounds for Fright Fest.
Yes, and we're doing some stuff about Fright Fest. Actually, one of them, it's not horror theatre at all, but it's a film called You Are the Film, which also has theatre stuff in it, weirdly.
There's a documentary about... I want to say there's a documentary about... No.
Oh, the haunted house stuff.
My brain was thinking it was horror theatre, and I'm like, no, but it's adjacent.
It's adjacent. Actually, I am going to be reviewing that. Actually, that's one of the things on my docket,
fantastic.
as it were. So yeah,
I'm really excited for that one. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head.
The fright stuff. It's a good title.
Oh, beautiful. Love that.
About haunted houses in America, as in like the fear. And actually, I didn't even get to again. I've spoken to someone who's done like those immersive horror experience before. I didn't even get a chance to share that. So that's something we can talk about in part 2.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, my friend worked in Alton Towers in their London dungeon. Well, it was the Alton Towers dungeon, wasn't it? But she worked there for years doing scare acting.
Yeah,
and it's
fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know how people do that either. Yet alone like the stage productions, doing the screaming at people for 8 hours a day for however long it lasts for. Jesus. But no, thank you so much. It's been lovely. And
thank you.
Like you said, we could have talked for hours and hours and hours, but you've got places to be because you've got friends and I haven't. So
that's bad timing, unfortunately. But
yeah, but no, we'll absolutely do a part 2 because I would love that. And an episode on society.
Yes, please. Absolutely.
Because I could talk about society ad infinitum, but talking about society as an autistic film and an allegory for neurodivergence, I'm like, oh yeah, because people ask me all the time for like, can you tell me any films that are about the neurodivergent experience or are inherently autistic? And I'm like, can't think of anything. But now you've said that, I'm like, fuck's sake, yeah.
I need like not Rain Man and just offensive stereotypes. Basically, that's the hard bit. It's like, there's plenty out there, but any that are good.
Which isn't a horror film, so like.
Yeah, I mean no, but there's a great podcast called I think it's stopped now. I think something like Autism
Through Cinema, I think.
And they mentioned, I think I mentioned this to you, but Amelie is a film because it's a whole tangent, but yeah, there's a lot of. We have to read autism into a lot of cinema because there's not enough of it out there explicitly about us, but there's plenty out there that we can interpret. But that could be a whole episode in itself.
Yeah, and not to spoil an upcoming episode, but I'm doing an episode with somebody about the film Martin. Martin is autistic, and I was like, of course he's fucking autistic.
I'll share my piece that I wrote. I wrote a whole piece about that.
Brilliant! Yes, please.
I'll share that with you. I absolutely agree.
But I will let you go. Have a lovely day having your adventures. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll get the next 2 episodes booked in. We'll probably end up doing more. We'll probably have a podcast about horror theatre at some point in the future, but I'd love that.
That'd be cool.
If enough people email and say, yes, please do that, we'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we can get free tickets for theatre plays.
Thank you. Any theatres out there listening?
Smart.
Yeah.
Genius. Well, thank you so much. It's been lovely chatting to you, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello. I hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, if you enjoyed what you watched or heard, please give me a rating or a review. Please share it with somebody you think might enjoy the podcast. I've spoken to quite a few people recently who've started listening and have given me lovely, lovely feedback, which is so nice. If you want to send me an email or a message, all of the information for the podcast is in the show notes. Please follow me on Instagram at Horror Hyperfixations or at sam.munster, where I share all sorts of nonsense. But I really appreciate the support that people give me. It is so, so lovely. Every time I see that somebody actually listens to the podcast, I'm like mind blown. So I really appreciate when not only people listen, but they get to the end of sometimes 3-4 hour long rambles about things that I love, with people that I love talking about things that they love. So thank you so much for listening. I'll talk at you again soon. Bye. Horror Hyperfixations is supported by Hell on Shirts. Hell on Shirts make shirts for the sick and make the best horror and cult movie merch. I'm super proud to be an ambassador for Hell on Shirts. They are an amazing, independent, Welsh, family-run business, and I've been following them since the start. Visit their website at hellonshirts.com to see the sickest t-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies, the comfiest joggers ever, skateboard decks like I've got up on my wall, and loads more cool stuff. With officially licensed merchandise and artwork from some of the best artists in the world, you're absolutely going to find your new favourite shirt. So go check them out on social media, visit their website, and if you use code Munster10, you will save money on your order. Thanks, Hell on Shirts. Love you, bye!